All right, good evening, everyone. Starting here early tonight, today, Monday, March 23rd, we're here to continue on with our third work session to discuss potential homestead exemption and other potential tax relief programs. I'm now going to turn it over to Town Manager Jim Manning to walk us through a presentation.
Thank you. As you stated, this is the third work session on this important topic of the homestead exemption. Before I begin, you'll see most of the team on just opposite me that have done a tremendous amount of work up until this afternoon at 4:30. We're still working on it. So you have Jamie Gorman, Building Inspector, Brian Sylvia, our Finance Director. You have Wendy Duarte, who's our Tax Assessor, and Jess Spence, who's my Executive Assistant. But also Jamie Rabbit put a lot of work into this, and Erin Vaness, the Assessment Clerk, put a lot of effort into it. Probably about anywhere from 12 to 15 meetings in the past few months, some going hours and some going a half hour, an hour. It's been a lot of work to get to this point tonight. And we've been honing it down. So you're correct, this is the third work session, and if you go to page 2, you will see that we had work session number 1 was held on Thursday, October 21st. Work session number 2 was held on Thursday, January 29th. And we cast a broad view of what a homestead exemption could look like and presented them to the council each time. And each time we've been getting guidance on how to hone it down and bring it closer and closer to something that could work for the town. Let's go to page 3. Two things to keep in mind. A possible homestead exemption is based on the certified 2025 tax roll, which is the year end December 31st, 2024. And the calculations will change once the town reconciles the 2024 statistical revaluation, which is on June 15th, 2026. Let's go to page 4. This is where this is part of it. We keep going back and giving a synopsis of what the town tax roll looks like in the event someone hasn't attended all these work sessions, or it's just a point of reference for everyone to continue to go back to. So if we look at the top blue border right there, it says total number of parcels on tax roll. This is 14,302. That is the base that the tax roll is the base that we collect taxes on our levy and for all our expenses here in town. There are some other numbers I'd like you to just reference to at some point. The single-family owner-occupied homes in this town that we estimate, and I use that word, I'll use it over and over again. Much of this is an estimation because we do not have an exact number on all. We do on the tax properties, but not on the percentages. Close, but we're not. But it still has to be an estimation. So the single-family owner-occupied in this town is 7,443 homes. That is 52% of that 14,302. The single-family owner-occupied residential condos is 1,093. That's 7.6% of that 14,302. If we remember the last work session, condominiums, which are numbered approximately 2,000, we had to come up with an estimation on how many are owner-occupied versus those that are not. That is the number we came up with. The single-family non-owner occupied is 2,099. Once again, an estimation, 14.7% of the total number of parcels on our tax roll. So this total single-family properties out of that 14,302 is 10,635. All other parcels you'll see the star next to it. What are those? So first of all, the number is 3,667. Those include commercial, 2 to 5 family, estate, farm, seasonal, other improved land, residential vacant, vacant other, condominiums, farm forest, open space, mobile homes. Does not include tangibles. If you add the numbers all the way down, you'll see it comes to 100%, that 14,302. Let's go to the next page. The next hurdle, and the biggest one that we had to determine, is how many of those properties would be eligible for a homestead. So the South Kingston has the total number of single-family residential parcels. You'll see them, now we start breaking down these numbers more and more and more until we get to that number. The single-family and residential condominium owners occupied, homestead eligible is 8,536. The single-family non-owner occupied comes out to 2,099. So that means the total is 10,635, or 100% of the single-family residential parcels. We're estimating, this team, that the single-family eligible for a homestead is approximately 80% of those, which means that there's 20% that are other single-family homes, which we identified, as non-residents and so forth. How do we come up with that 80-20? Because that's the number it was pretty constant last time before we entered the condos, but because the condos were pretty much split right down the middle, that percentage did not change. It's still 80% eligible, 20% not. But how did this team come up with that number? We looked at where the tax bills were being sent, the address that they're being sent to through the tax collector and through the assessor's office. And 80% of all the single-family homes, these tax bills were being sent to the address that is listed on the properties. The other 20% were sent anywhere out of state, LLCs, or trusts. Let's look at page 6. Once again, these are some numbers just to provide a background on what the demographics are of this town. So let's look at the number of parcels per assessed value range. Once again, 14,302 is the number of all parcels. If you look at the resident owner occupied on the left side, including residential condos, we went over that number, 8,536. If you look at the non-resident owner occupied, 2,099. We look at the commercial properties that we're basing this off, there's 357 on the right side. All other parcels comes out to 3,310. And once again, all other parcels are identified as commercial, 2 to 5 family, estate, farm, seasonal, other improved land, residential vacant, vacant other, condominiums, farm forest, open space, mobile homes, and does not include tangibles. Page 7. The total tax levy on all taxable property from last year was $79,178,320 on that total number of 14,302. We have to break down that number now more. The total number of tax-exempt parcels in this town is 709. So the total number of taxable parcels really comes down to 13,593. Look at the assessment. Let's break it down to the assessments, the tax base. All single-family parcels are valued at $5,505,199,000, approximately. All other parcels, minus the tax exempt, are valued on our tax rolls, assessed on our tax rolls, at $3,327,623,000. The personal exempt, so the subtotal of that, the tax base, is $8,832,822,000. Personal exemptions are $133 million, $133,773,000. So the bottom line, all total gross assessed value for all parcels, $8,965,822,000. $896,000. Page 8. Over the past 2 work sessions, we've looked at several scenarios in what I'm about to discuss to you. A 5% tax exemption, homestead exemption, a 10% homestead exemption. The reason we bring up the 10% again is some people might be tuning in for the first time and say, well, wait a minute. The enabling legislation was for a 10% homestead exemption. Why can't I get that? That was ruled out pretty early by the town council because of the huge impact on the remaining 20% of the people that the tax burden would be shifted to. So one of the questions asked by the council for the staff was, let's look at a 5% homestead tax exemption, including residential condominiums. The next 3 pages have an assessed property value of $400,000. So what does that mean? We studied 3 different scenarios so that everyone in town who was eligible, that entire 80% that we talked about, possibly getting in homestead of 5% from their assessment. So if you scroll down and you look at the left box with the green, so say someone had, so that would mean every person in the town would, of the first $400,000 of the assessed value of their home was studied, and they were given $20,000 off, 5% of 400,000, $20,000 off their assessment. So their assessment would be $380,000. That's what the first $400,000 would be. The tax rate would go, if that scenario worked, from $8.94 to $9.12. The tax bill would go down from $3,576 to $3,465. They would have a savings of $110 per year. But the non-resident owners and the commercial property owners with the same $400,000 scenario, theirs would increase $72. If you look at the next page, that's a $500,000 study we did. First $500,000 for on the assessment of 5% homestead exemption. The next page, page 11, is a $600,000. We studied that one as well. But let's go to page 12, because these are the numbers that really matter. Look at page 12. You will see in red, if you look at the $400,000 cap of an assessed value that was taken off 5% of that, the loss of tax revenue, the third from the bottom line, is $1,490,954. If you go to $500,000 cap, $1,780,592, $600,000 cap, $1,994,377. So what do those numbers mean? That is the loss of revenue. If those 80% of people, residents in this town, got a homestead exemption of 5%, those 3 numbers under those 3 different scenarios would have to be the number that needs to be made up by tax burden shifting to the 20% of remaining properties. If you look down, and we're basing it off last year's tax rate, you'll see the white line right in the middle of the 2 red. The current tax rate is $8.94. If we went to the $400,000 cap and took 5% off for that 80% of all the residents in town, we would have to add 18 cents on the tax rate so that everyone would have that, so that that 80% could save 5%. I think when we all looked at this last time, it was a little, it was an eye-opening experience to see trying to do the right thing and give everyone 5% at a minimum, but the tax shift would be substantial. That was the takeaway I got from the council last time. But still, we put it up here as an option. Let's go to page 13. Once again, this is that last slide I showed you, only much larger bullet points, so that anyone can see it and understand it. So that was the 5% homestead exemption scenario that the council wanted this team to study and look at, and so you can make a well-informed decision. Let's look at page 14. The next scenario that the town council directed staff to study was a flat credit for all seniors in this town, age 65 and above. Let's go to page 15. We used the census from 2023 to determine that there was over 7,000 residents of this town that are age 65 and above. I would assume that that number would be higher now, 2 years later in the census, even though in the year 2026 we'll be up to 25 census. But still, if you look at these three boxes, so if you gave every resident who's age 65 and above a flat credit of $150 on the left-hand box, the revenue deficit would be $1,054,000. The new tax rate to offset the revenue loss would be $9.07. If you look at the $175 flat credit, we would be deficient, revenue deficient of $1,230,000. The tax rate would have to be elevated to $9.09. Then if you look at the $200 flat credit, which was studied, goes up to $1.4 million as a revenue deficit. Tax rate would go up $9.11. If you look at the green box in the middle, we're giving you this number knowing that we're using the old tax rate of $8.94, which we know will change this year. The next scenario that was studied is the current income-based elderly exemptions plus the flat credit of age 65 and above. So once again, this scenario goes over the current income-based deduction that residents could get, plus a possibility of getting, or plus a flat credit. So let's go over those numbers. Page 17. So page 17 is the current income-based elderly exemption for residents who are 65 years plus. This is the current income group. Exemptions claimed, you'll see there's 168 people in this program. And the amount that they get in yellow. And if you look at the bottom right corner where there's an arrow, that is the revenue loss for the existing program that the town of South Kingston has for elderly exemptions for those age 65 and above. It's $277,598. So let's move from there and go higher. If you look at the next page, page 18, so say the current income-based elderly exemptions that we have on the previous page, plus give every one of those people a $150 credit on top of what they would get. Look in the bottom right corner, you'd see there's a revenue loss of $302,798. So once again, that's the current income-based elderly exemption plus $150 credit for every senior who's in this group only. 168 people that we know are in that group. So look at page 19. Another scenario, the same as the last slide, only $175 credit. First slide was current, second was $150, now we're in $175 tax credit. Revenue loss would be $306,000, almost $307,000. Let's go to the next page, page 20. Tried it with a $200 tax credit on top of the current deduction they would get, the amounts. It'd be about a $311,000 revenue loss. The next scenario, increase the elderly income qualifications. That one seemed pretty widely accepted by the council. It was something that this group put a lot of work into. And you'll see, as we go through these next pages, there's a lot of data in there, and there's a lot of numbers, and I'm sure we'll have to refer to that a couple of times to truly understand what it is. One of the council members brought up, suppose we increase the income bracket so that more people could get involved, elderly residents, so they could get, based on income, because those numbers are a couple of years old, the ones we looked at in the past. So now we're looking at COLA, cost of living, and HUD, housing and urban development. Two different scenarios with different outcomes. Brian, if you can go to page 22. That's the slide I'm referring to right there. So let's go down. Let's just use a point of reference all the way down as the last line. The current income-based elderly exemption in that white column is a range of $42,648 to $45,197. If we look at the COLA increase in yellow, the income goes up $46,913 to $49,717. Anyone that falls in that range. So you can see that it's going up probably about 10%. If we look at the far right in red, that's the housing and urban development. And I'll give you the definition of that. It has announced 2026 adjustments with an average increase of 5.1%, according to a study in Boston, Massachusetts. The HUD in 2025 was an average increase of 4.8%, whereas the COLA was an average of 2.5%, and the current is the current. So you have three different scenarios here, just income-based possible increases for the elderly residents that qualify. Let's go to page 23. Once again, this is a comparison of COLA and HUD. So if you look at the, this is really just restating everything that I had on the previous page, just in a different format, in case you want to look at it in a different way. But look at the 80% AMI for Washington County. So a one-person household would be maxed out at $64,050, and a two-person household, $73,200 under HUD. Let's go to the next page, page 24. You can see they're getting a little more, the comparison is good, and but really, this is something you should spend some time on to really look at. So this is the option for flat credit amount for all seniors age 65 plus with Social Security COLA and HUD. So we're doing a comparison of if you did the COLA increase or the HUD increase, and you put in a flat credit on top of that, or not. So let's look at the first bullet there that says flat credit amount in green, upper left corner. So in the existing plan, it would, if we give a flat credit of $150 plus the amount that, let's go to the second one. That one's more self-explanatory. COLA. If you see there's a black number on top, 587,534. So if you give a COLA adjustment of 2.8%, and we estimate we added 20 more people to each one of those categories in income, once again, that is a true estimate. We don't know what that number could be. So the yellow is COLA. Look at a 2.8% increase for 288 people eligible without the flat credit, it would be 587,534 would be the loss of revenue. But if you combine the flat rate, whether it's $150, $175, or $200, you can see that it jumps substantially to the red in the middle, $1,642,000. So if you just give let's go back to that again. If you just give a 2.88% increase for cost of living under the 150 column, without the 150 credit, the tax revenue loss would be $587,000. If you combine the 150 on top of that, it goes to $1,642,000. And then there's the tax rate for the COLA alone. And you can see the next three columns going all across, 150, 175, 200, if you can follow that logic down.
Jim, quick, simple question.
Yes.
The 587, 534, 587, that is the cost of the program, or is that the change in the cost of the program? Because on a previous slide, I think we currently spend $277,598. So you're talking about that's the
cost of the program.
The new cost.
The
so
new
it's
cost.
An additional 300 and change.
Approximately, yes.
Okay, it was simple. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't. We're already committing 277.
Yes.
It would expand it to 587.
Yes.
Yes, everybody? Okay.
So you see the COLA, yellow. You see the flat credit alone, green up top. Let's go to HUD. You can see HUD is a much higher number. Well, not much higher. It's a higher number. Once again, the HUD rate of increase last year in 2025 was 5%. The numbers without a flat credit on top of it would be 590,667. And we're looking at the last bullet, the last box in red, the red arrows. HUD 5.1%, 288 eligible, 590,000 for the total program. If you include the combined flat rate above that, $150, and the HUD eligible residents, now it jumps to $1,645,000 loss in revenue, the cost of the program. And you can see those three columns go all the way across, three different scenarios, $150, $175, $200, with or without.
So I have another question.
Yes.
The tax rate you're basing on is the 894. So if you just look at this first one on the left, $150 flat credit, the rate changes to 907. So that is 13 cents higher.
Yes.
What does that translate if the new tax rate is 909? Do we add 3 cents to it, or is it? Wendy's nodding, but I don't know. I don't know if it translates exactly the same. Is it a 13-cent increase?
It's close.
It's close.
It's close.
There is some growth in the tax base this year, so it's not a one-for-one, but approximately where what's before the town council right now is a proposed rate of 909 next year, so that's an increase of 15 cents, and then this would be in addition to that.
An additional 11 or 12, 13-cent increase?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Now, once again, we're given an assumption as 288 people in this program versus 168 now. So that number could go up substantially,
right,
or could come down. We
or
don't
it could
know.
be almost the same.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So the goal tonight would be for the town council to view and I know I flew through this, but I'd rather give you guys a lot more time to discuss this important matter. And maybe if you pick a scenario and we could dig deeper in it, for example, if you want to do elderly with no flat rate and it's COLA and HUD, we would try and refine that number even more than we already did. And plus the rental registrations would be in by the end of that, so we'd have a pretty good idea of that 80-20% statistic.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any questions up here? Good.
I've got I want to go back to the beginning so that I understand what the definitions are and what some of the methodology is that's being used here. Back to slide 3, there's a notation about calculations will change once the town reconciles the 2024 statistical evaluation. What would you expect the impact of that to be?
We have 2 more assessment board review meetings, and the funds for abatements do come out of, I believe, uncollectibles. Am I saying that correctly?
It comes out the amount to be collected.
There you go. So I'm anticipating possibly another 25 to 50,000, maybe.
Okay.
So that's what it's tough to say, even though it collectively doesn't necessarily come out of my assessment pie, but collectively it does have an impact. So we have actually a meeting scheduled for this Wednesday. We have another one in April. We only have 1 more meeting budgeted. So mid-April, every day the numbers change.
But it's not a huge unknown.
It's not a huge unknown.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a range where an educated assumption of what we think is going to happen, just like an educated assumption of how many more people we think we would bring onto the program. I made an assumption that we would expand the brackets, 6 more brackets, and maybe 20 people per bracket could possibly, but it could be 25 in one, 10 in another.
I'll get to that part of it. On page 7 at the bottom, you've got personal exemptions with a $133 million figure. What's the definition of the personal exemptions you're referring to? I'm not sure what that is.
That's all of the exemptions. So ADUs, veterans, widow of a vet,
Okay.
all the exemptions on the books collectively.
That is the assessed value that's deducted.
That is
Yes.
exempt. Okay. I also want to understand the data that you're using for the calculations, particularly with regard to the census, because it's already 3 years out of date, number one, and I understand that's the most recent one available. But presumably most of the people who were 65 in 2023 are still going to be here, but there are some more that will have moved in, and there are some, including me and my wife, who have aged into the group since 2023. So that 7,033 number is also likely to go up.
I'll answer that. I believe it will go up, and I believe it could go up more than, because we're also, if we're noticing there's an influx of out-of-state people from Connecticut and Massachusetts that are moving in. I use my neighbor as an example. There used to be the 5 homes in my neighborhood. We all had children at one point, and 4 out of 5 did. Now I'm the only Rhode Islander left in there. They're all from Massachusetts or Connecticut, all the other 4 people. So that's just happened in the past 4 or 5 years. So we are seeing a demographic shift of people coming from out of state to here, and so we do have an aging population here in this town.
The reason I'm asking these questions is that the council has to certify the tax roll before the end of June, and I'm concerned that we may not have sufficient data, sufficient accurate, up-to-date data in March and April to make a decision about a homestead exemption for a tax roll that has to be certified in 2 more months. We already passed, and I'm not looking really for a response. I just want to let you know that's the concern that I have about that. These numbers are not hard numbers, and I don't fault anybody for that. I don't know that you can get them. But I see cause to be concerned about how we make these calculations. Yes, but somebody else can take over.
So I had a question about page 4 with we included the owner occupied condos. Mike, could you turn off your?
Oh, yes.
We added the owner occupied residential condos with 1,093, and then I thought I heard it mentioned that there was about 2,000 total condos. So shouldn't we also have a line item on this 3-line chart here with a 4th line that includes non-owner occupied residential condos?
Yes, that is included. So if you look at line 3, single-family non-owner occupied, that number went up. That's the number.
Okay,
That
so
includes
that,
homes and condos.
I guess for clarity, if we present again on this topic, would you just add that in parentheses, non-owner occupied homes and condos, so that everyone knows? Great question, Patty.
and then my other question is, and also just thank you for all of these numbers. One of the other things that I've been thinking a lot about is there's actually a bill that is currently being discussed at the State House that would allow elderly homeowners to defer their taxes until their death, essentially. So at the state level, it's being discussed that elderly, disabled, and veterans would have the option to defer their taxes and thereby put the state in a lien position. So first lien, you couldn't have like a reverse mortgage. I just wonder if something like that could be a tool for us in our toolbox rather than, extending, $150 or $200 that we're already extending, $2,500. I'm really concerned about the people that are at the neediest people, and I'm concerned that even like another $200 might not be that meaningful to somebody that's really struggling to stay in their home. So it seems like there might be a few people, and Amy, that bill is presented by Megan Cotter. I know I've brought it up before, but I just think that could be very useful, and it sounds like there would be there would be 6% interest annually due. So it's not like the town would be losing money, and it seems like a win-win.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think that bill is about giving blanket authority to all cities and towns when that option has already been, some cities and towns already have that option on the books. If I'm remembering correctly, I'll review that legislation.
And it's like statewide universal enabling legislation, something like that.
I think that's what it is, because I think I did review it quickly.
I can tell you it's H7567.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got a few questions. Start here. Let's go ahead.
I was waiting. I thought we were going down the line in order, so that's why.
We'll start on page 4 here, which we have up. Patty raises a good question. It's not entirely clear, but it is there. What is the number of owner-occupied condos as compared to single-family non-owner-occupied condos? Can you give us those figures?
Pretty much a split.
So about 50-50?
It is. So if I remember correctly, I have that number in front of me, it was just under 2,000 for the total number of condos. So 1,093 were the owner-occupied condos. We use the same standard that if the tax bill was mailed to the house, we would count it as owner-occupied.
Now we go to page 5. Now in the previous presentations when we looked at sort of a comparison of single-family owner-occupied versus single-family non-owner-occupied, it excluded any consideration of condos And when we looked at it then, it was 80-20. But now when we include condos, total of about 2,000, 1,000 of which are owner-occupied, 1,000 of which are non-owner-occupied, the percentage stays the same, and that doesn't seem correct to me.
So it didn't to me either. So the minute we added it and they said it's 80-20 again, and I said, that can't be. There has to be some type of disparity. But the way it fell was right down the middle. So we did the numbers, all of us individually and collectively, and we still came up with the 80-20.
All right. Let's go down to, I guess let's go to the next page here. I'll go to page 9. I mean, I think, at least one of my thoughts was when we included the condos and accounted for both the owner-occupied and the non-owner-occupied, and we throw off these percentages such that the benefit from being an owner-occupied would be so little that it wouldn't be worth it. But now, because the percentage disparity is exactly the same as what we've been looking at previously, it looks like there's really no change in the potential savings and the potential offset to the non-owner-occupied. Is that fair to say?
I think there was a little change on both, but it wasn't substantial.
All right. Now I want to jump now over to the income base. I think page 23. When we compare the loss in tax revenue, if we were to increase the income brackets to COLA as compared to if we increase the income brackets to the HUD, I mean, the loss of tax revenue is about neutral. So it looks to me that maybe only one person would be eligible, one more person if we were to go increase the brackets to align with HUD as compared to if we were to increase the brackets to align with COLA would be eligible. It just seems bizarre to me that the increase in tax revenue loss is less than about 3,000. Like, what is the basis by which you've come up with the loss of tax revenue as it relates to these income brackets? Like, where is your underlying information to come up with the number of persons who are eligible?
So I had to make an assumption, and you may want to actually refer to page 22 instead. Thank you, I appreciate that. So just to regroup on this slide, so the first column that's not highlighted, it's in white, that bottom bracket. As it stands, there's 168 people that qualify for this program. So the top bracket cutoff or threshold is 45,197. So I believe it was the last presentation, there were a COLA slide where it had that bracket increase, just that bottom threshold, if we were to increase it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then we had that same scenario for HUD. This sort of collapses it so that you can align it with the HUD income bracket. So it's a little bit of a merger, and I can clarify if this doesn't make sense because it's much to unpack. But if you were to, as a minimum, which I think we've sort of decided to do because I was going to work with the solicitor to redraft the ordinance so that the income brackets were embedded into the ordinance so that I don't have to come back yearly or if we miss a year, which is kind of why we're here now. So that's our scenario, regardless if nothing happens, that seems like that needs to happen because we've missed the last year or two to keep up with the cost of living. So that's your baseline needs to happen now scenario, okay? So it's the 10%. So that's just the 10% bracket. So if you look at that last number on the current 45,197, if you went with COLA, had that embedded into the ordinance every year, I just run this scenario. We don't have to have an ordinance, and we just well-oiled machine. You got it. So
present the schedule of fees and they're adopted rather than public hearing notice. Blah, blah, blah.
Have the brackets in the ordinance and this just, yeah. So that's one scenario, which we've historically always used COLA. Now I know Councilwoman Alley was very interested in using a different cost of living index, which would be HUD, right? That's what we use for affordable housing. So that's what page 23 breaks down. It kind of plugs in COLA into, it's not a COLA, scenario, but if 50%, 50 to 60, you're kind of right in the middle there. If we were to increase it to 10%, you're at about 50 to 60% of HUD of AMI, which is very low. Now, that's fine. That's what we've always done, and we can continue to do that. But I wanted to answer your question and give you another scenario. If you were to embed the ordinance where it would increase with HUD, that's a different index. Clearly, it's not much of a difference. It just changes the game a little because now, if you go, back to slide 22. So now you've got you would have to bring the bottom bracket, so that threshold of 45,197, you would have to increase it 50% to bring that threshold to 67,796. Back to page 23. And then there you are, you're sort of in the middle. Now you're at 80%, and that's sort of a minimum affordable housing unit in town. They would use that index. So that's sort of your decision at this point, what direction you want to go with. And we try to color coordinate it so that you could see that there's sort of two different scenarios. And it's just really a council decision on what you want to use. Now, I have to make an assumption. How many people in town could we bring in that would, I don't know, I couldn't know, but I've been here several years where we've had people apply and we've denied them. But they're not going to come in if we're advertising for that bracket. So some people just kind of accidentally think they're at that threshold of 45,197, and maybe if they're even $1 more, they don't qualify. They're denied on the program. So I just made an assumption, maybe 20 more people per bracket. We could probably, if you were to go with the HUD bracket, you could potentially help 120 people, and that's really a guess.
So my question is kind of more specific to, in order to have an idea of what the potential revenue loss would be if we were to enact this higher bracket, you have to have some sort of, I guess, estimation of the number of persons eligible. Now, when I look at if we were to increase it to align with COLA versus if we were to increase it to align with HUD, the difference is 3,000. And just naturally, I would think a larger number of persons would be eligible if we jumped to HUD, meaning the revenue loss by increasing the brackets would be more than what you reflect in this slide. So the specific question is, what is it that you're relying on to estimate the number of persons eligible, and as a result coming to an amount that is the anticipated revenue loss? Because it's all a function of number of persons eligible.
Quick question.
Well, that's a question.
I'm going to just add to that. It's 166 this year. Has that number been stable? Because I know he's trying to get to, are we going to go to 25? Where are we going? So
we've had more people on the program in the past. I've seen it fluctuate. When I first started here 5 years ago, maybe there was 150 people. A few years ago, we've had about 200. So it fluctuates. It's hard to answer that question. I have more of a visual that maybe I can put in a slide or I can email to you separately, President McEntee, that will show you the methodology of how I got there. I don't quite know how to.
So let me ask you a different question. It's along the same lines. Do you or do you not account for an increase of number of persons eligible when you quantify the anticipated revenue loss if we were to increase the brackets to HUD as compared to if we were to increase them to COLA?
Yes. So when I ran the
scenario, what is that number of increase the number of persons eligible?
So I use the same scenario for the COLA and the HUD, and the difference between the 3% and 5% seems like it would be larger, but it's not, just like that 80-20. So they're the numbers, right? So I used our base for both scenarios. So right now the threshold being, I couldn't really quite get it in the middle of a bracket, but let's just say we had one of the brackets cut off at 47,805. So I used the scenario of how many people are on the program now and what the total loss would be, which is 439,260, and then I made the assumption of 6 more brackets up to that 67,796 threshold. So the difference between that collectively 120 more persons the difference is $148,093, and then when I ran the scenario for HUD, the same exact scenario, the same exact people, the difference was $151,407. So it's just that's the way it slices. It's very
Okay.
close.
Can you go back to the previous slide? Just one more question, and we can move on. The red there on the far right, is that on a per taxpayer or per household basis?
Per household.
Okay. So if you got two
anyone that
taxpayers
applies-
married, for example, each are under that threshold, but combined they're over, they wouldn't be eligible.
You got it. So if it's a one-person household, it's a one-person household. If it's a two-person household, and there are folks on the program that care for small children on the program, and they receive income for that to supplement to care for that. That all goes into it. So we've got a couple different scenarios.
And the only persons that are eligible to receive the tax credit under the current program are those who are residents who also fit into the income thresholds.
They actually, not only the residents, the program is you have to pay 5 tax bill cycles prior. So if you move into town and you're a senior, you have to wait 5 years to qualify for the program. If you're currently in town and you were 64 and then you move to another place in town, we don't count like that. That's continuous residency. So there's a residency requirement, there's a buy-in requirement, and then another component of the program is, it gets very tricky. We actually have to administer this manually in an Excel spreadsheet because the formula is you have to pay, not only do you have to buy in for 5 years, you have to pay the first 4% of your tax bill. So that's an assessment ratio, which is different for everybody, and an income ratio that's different for everyone. Then the 4%, and then it kicks in. So even still with these brackets, I've got folks that don't get the full credit. They get partial credits. It's complicated.
Okay. Good.
So, because we don't have a lot of time, I just will point out a couple of numbers that I thought were interesting in this slide. I think you were putting together, all of you. Page 6. If you look at page 6, on the left-hand side, we'll just look at the percentages. You have 53% of properties for resident owner occupied, including the residential condos, at 53%. That's up to 700,000, you add 15.9%, and that brings you to almost 70% of the resident owner occupied properties in South Kingston. That's a high number. You add up to 800,000, that gets you up to 81%. So that's a super majority of folks can feel some sort of taxation relief. I also thought it was interesting that we only had 100, is that right? We only have 175 people for elderly exemptions?
168.
That is correct.
168.
And that's another moving number too, because we have a deadline where by May 15th they have to apply so that we can get it on the roll, so that when they get their bills they can see the credit. But we don't really have a deadline, even though we have a deadline. So another challenging component of the program is it's a rolling credit, because somebody could come in today and I can give them an elderly late credit up until basically a week before I gotta shut it down and actually get things printed.
Right. I mean, I can't be alone in thinking that's a super low number. And the last thing I'll say is I like what Councilwoman Ali said about considering the HUD numbers instead, even though it's kind of what Council President said. There's not a big difference between the two. And the last thing I'll say, because of time, is that I've had families come up to me in the street and say, we need a homestead exemption. And I'm in favor of increasing the senior exemptions, but also for residential owners in South Kingston. Thanks.
All right. Go ahead.
So I just want to go back. So if the HUD was used, the cost of that program would be we would have to come up with account for additional $320,000 in revenue. Rough math. Because the current program is $277,000, so 598, it's about $327, which is, according to Jim, we're going to add how many cents to the 909? Because I certainly feel that we need to be sensitive to a very invisible, unseen population that might be financially strapped, it comes because we put that on the community. We're literally taking money from one person and having them pay a little bit more so we can do that. So I say all the time, the way to help people is to always try to spend the most mindfully, the most economically, because everyone benefits if the spending is on the money, correct? I just don't see how we go from 909 and then 87,000 per penny, and you get another 4, 5, 6 cents, right, just for this additional thing. That's, you know.
This is why I really like the option for people to defer their taxes, like this program, because it's you know, it's sort of net neutral to the taxpayer, and we're making a little bit of money. It's a good.
Is it net neutral though? Because there's a gap. If an elderly person freezes their taxes and they don't pay their $5,000 tax bill, the town still has to have that revenue. How does that work?
I reviewed this legislation, and it's a little different than what I had remembered. It actually would not be enabling legislation, it would be mandatory. So it would, the title of the legislation is statewide deferment of payment of tax for qualified senior citizens, disabled citizens, and disabled veterans. I'm sure that this is a bill that is on the radar of the League of Cities and Towns for the financial implications, and the bill actually includes funding from the state.
And ask for up $2 million. So then that's for the whole state. So if we were just to even fund, you know, like, say, for instance, the two low, I mean, the entirety of all the deductions that we have now is what, like $268?
What we ask the community to support. Yep.
Right, 200. That's what we currently have.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess so. Like Megan Cotter is asking for $2 million in funding. So obviously, how it works is we sort of front the money, and then when the person passes away, we get our money back plus the 6%. So I just feel like there's some way of doing that so that we're not putting additional burden on the taxpayer in a very difficult time.
I think
I think if the state solves the puzzle, right, and they create that, it'll be in July. But we have to do this now. So what do we want to do as an interim step that makes sense?
Well, I don't think we're ready. I think we got to continue this to another meeting. I got more questions I'd like to flesh out. Perhaps just the same slides. We can address anything we haven't addressed. I really only got out a few questions. I have more. And as to this bill, I mean, there's a lot more deeper considerations and effect on the town that we're not really thinking through, or we'd have to think through more before we just come out and say, this is a good idea. Certainly that would affect the amount of revenue that we account for receiving on an annual basis if we'd have to no longer collect the full amount of revenue, but only a fraction thereof in the form of interest. I mean, that, just thinking through it now without thinking further, it's hard for us to sort of come to a consensus on that, but I think perhaps continue this a month from now, second meeting in April. We can walk through the same slides, get through them more quickly, and any remaining questions we can get them out there and then come to hopefully a consensus where we want to go. Go ahead.
If Amy at the second meeting in April can also give us some report on the status of the bill, we could also put ourselves in the jackpot if we pass an ordinance in April and then the legislature passes that bill in July. We may have to do both, which could be a huge financial problem for the town.
May I ask that you add some additional information to the slides? So one, if you could have program cost with the delta, so.
Just to clarify, when she's talking about program costs, I look at it as loss of tax revenue. Just want to make sure we're talking about it correctly. It's not an expense of the town, it's a loss of revenue.
Fine. that's an accounting word. I just want to know what the elderly exemptions would be in terms of lost revenue. Currently, and on everywhere that you're talking about, like, it's slide 22 that I think could benefit, and also slide 24. I think those are where I see that would be, and also to then present a tentative tax rate. If we know right now it's 909, we need to translate that properly so that people can see that it'll be a 30-cent increase or whatever it is. Whatever it is. I didn't do the math in my head. 909 plus whatever.
I'd like to, go ahead. One additional piece of data that I think the council is going to need to discuss based on the earlier workshop is everything at the end, especially with respect to HUD, is based on an expansion of the existing elderly exemption. And there are people in town who fit that 80% HUD AMI figure who don't qualify at 65 and up, but may need the tax relief as well. I don't know that we're going to be able to afford it, but I think it's a question that we ought to, if we have the data, we can at least have the discussion.
All right, good work, nice job. Look forward to continuing this in April. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get things underway. Today is Monday, March 23rd. It's a little after 7:30 p.m. We're here for our regularly scheduled town council meeting. First order of business, as always, is pledge of allegiance to the flag. Next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land on which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next, we have the roll call.
Council President McEntee. Here. Council Vice President Marin.
Here.
Council Member Bergner.
Here.
Council Member Alley.
Here.
Council Member Wedgemont.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. It's going to move us to item 4, approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Motion to approve items 4A, B, and C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. We do not have any appointments to take up tonight. It's going to move us to item 6, the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. It's going to bring us now to 7 licenses. A is a resolution granting a victualling license to El Macatu Restaurant, LLC, doing business as El Macatu Restaurant, 99 Fort Road, Kingston. Application by Pedro Augusto Cuevas Reyes, owner. Pedro, come on up. Yeah, come on up. Yep, we'll just have you push the button on the right, turn on the microphone. So, tell us what's happening.
Dile qué está pasando.
Cerraron el restaurante.
Like, he is here to tell you guys that he is planning on selling authentic Dominican food. Also, he's going to be selling mofongo, which is a Dominican dish. Which is I want you guys to go and try, please.
It's not the Emporium, right?
Yeah,
Because I go in there and get your food. It's awesome.
yeah. All the food the family cooks is made out with love. That's the family main ingredient. And so we sell chili, which is a Dominican burger. That's the difference. Around here, you won't see Dominican restaurant. You gotta drive down to Broad Street. And all the kids was asking for Dominican food. That's why he's bringing that up to the Emporium. I'm the manager. I've been working in the plaza for over 15 years, since you went to URI. And so basically, he's going to be selling paninis, grinder, outdoors, Dominican empanadas. It's like the Dominican dishes is a huge dish. We need to stay there to midnight. To you.
You didn't bring any food for us to try?
No, but she can tell you.
It's all really good and it's always homemade, and you're always there, and you're so nice. I feel happy when I see you. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve item 7A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, that passes. Good luck.
Good luck.
Look forward to trying it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item B is a resolution granting a victualling license to Jack's Place LLC, doing business as Jack's Place, 501 High Street, Wakefield. Application by Quinn Early. Quinn?
Hello.
Welcome. So what's happening? Fill us in.
So me and my wife are opening a cocktail and burger bar. We're going to offer sandwiches, dinner menu, a little bit of wine, beer, and we're just trying to make a place where, people from the community can enjoy food and drink.
All right. This is the former Terminaces.
Yes, yep. And former flats.
Yep. And assuming you get all licenses tonight, when do you plan to open it?
April 10th.
Excellent.
And for the really old folks, the old Giros.
Yes, yes. Bar top is still in there.
And what's funny is I'm presently watching Virgin River, and that's Jack's Place is the bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just like that.
We did not take that.
Just like that. I'm sure you'll help revitalize the area. I think a lot of people love living right in Peaceville and being able to walk to a restaurant and walk downtown or walk back up. So I wish you the best.
Thank you. Item 7B.
Motion to approve item 7B. Oh, did you say that? Oh, I didn't hear you.
Second.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Right, that passes. We know you're also here for the transfer of a liquor license. That's going to come in a bit, so just hang tight.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's going to move us to item C, a resolution granting a victualling license to 456 Opco LLC doing business as Muse Tavern of Main Street, Wakefield, application by Matthew Lyons. Matthew?
Yes, hello.
Welcome.
And like you said, Matt Lyons, I'm the attorney on behalf of the applicant here, the transferee, of Muse Tavern. Quick little presentation for you. I do have George McAuliffe, who's the current manager, of the Muse. He'll be staying on with us as we transition with ownership. I can assure you, Muse Tavern will be Muse Tavern. It'll be Muse Tavern tomorrow, 2 months from now, 10 years from now. So, here for any questions that you might have.
All right, so all operations will remain the same?
Yes, sir.
George McCullough will remain as general manager? That's unclear?
As long as we can have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't anticipate changing the menu or changing the beers on tap?
A few,
Signature?
small updates here and there, but, as any restaurant would review their menus from time to time. But same menu, same spirit, same signatures.
Because when, it hit the news that it was being transferred to the Newport Restaurant Group?
Heritage Restaurant Group. Newport's the other one.
Okay. So there was, a little bit of sadness because people really appreciate a local business that's run locally. Sure. And so it would be hard for people to accept a huge change. I think I just want to sort of repeat that people like what we have. We don't like to change it sometimes. So.
Right. No, I'm happy to go on the record. We're not going to change the character.
The tree and all the
tree, dollar bills. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much. What?
The pizza bar.
The pizza bar, everything. We like it all.
Everything. We like it. We don't want anything to change.
Sorry.
George, you can't leave. That's that was easy.
So you were representing the Heritage Group?
Yes.
And it seems like your group has been expanding at an exponential rate in the past couple of years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many restaurants have you bought in the past year?
Offhand, we're in the past year.
Sure.
Offhand, we're up to, counting Muse, we would be, I want to say 23, 24. In the past year, it's, I'm doing a quick count in my head, 9, give or take 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What made you buy the Muse?
Opportunity came. Both parties, the sellers and us as the buyers, were agreed on a price, and opportunity was there. Like George said, he's going to be looking at some point when he's ready to do his thing. We will try not to let him do that, but time goes on, and opportunity was there.
I hear you, Mr. Lyons. The consolidation of the restaurant industry in Rhode Island concerns me as someone that used to be a service industry worker, and I'm glad to hear that you're ensuring that the restaurant workers there are going to be treated right and there's not going to be too many changes because, the Muse is an establishment in South Kingston, right? It's the only place to go in the winter, right?
Yes.
So,
one thing, if I may, one thing that we pride ourselves and is part of what makes Heritage, we let the individual establishments do their thing. We keep the management, we keep the staff, we keep the way things are run, we keep the character, the offerings, the whole, the experience for the customers and the community. Staff is part of that as well. Management is part of that. But what we do, for example, in-house attorney, I help with legal, licensing, we have an accounting team, so a lot of the back end, the elbow grease pieces, we take that off so that the management team and the staff can really flourish with our support. Thank you.
I was gonna make a motion to approve item 7C. I didn't,
Yeah.
Motion to approve item 7C.
Second. All right, we got a motion and a second. In discussion? All in favor? Aye. Right, that passes. I know you're also here for the transfer of a liquor license. It's going to come up at public hearing, so just hang on tight. All right, it's going to move us now to public comment. Anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any matter, I invite you to just come on up to the microphone. We just ask that you introduce yourself. We'll limit you to 5 minutes. All right, seeing none, we're going to move down.
Agenda item that's going to
So
come up
Lori,
in
just
2 minutes.
say your name for everybody who doesn't know who you are.
Lorraine Miller Horton. I just want to express to the council my continuing frustration with this unsafe pedestrian situation on Kersey Road. And I want to point out that I first came to you in July of 2023. It's been almost 3 years, and we are nowhere with zero change. Nothing has happened in almost 3 years. I had asked for a crosswalk, I'd asked for sidewalks, I'd asked for just scrape the dirt so that people can walk from my steps to Peacedale School. I've gotten shot down on every single suggestion I've brought before the council. And I am here tonight, and will be, as you know, there's an agenda item to put a speed camera at Peacedale School. I don't know what it takes to keep people safe in this town, but I think you'll agree with me that 3 years with a situation like this is too long to wait. So we'll address the speed camera issue, but I'm also not going away on the sidewalks and the crosswalk either. But tonight, let's get the speed camera issue settled, and we'll see where we go. But almost 3 years, folks.
Thank you, Lori.
Matt, can I say something? No, it's about that comment. I just wanted to ask Jim a question. One of the things that I recall that we did try to do was to try to get an easement from some property into the Peacedale School, correct? We did try something other than the options that have been presented tonight, right? The sidewalks.
Wait, hold on. Amy, this item is on the agenda later. We haven't gotten to it yet. We're sort of diving into it now. Should we wait? Should we move it up and address it? Do you have the option to do either? Go ahead.
I think you, at this point, if you're getting into it, you can move up that item on the agenda.
I mean, I think we could just wait. We move through the public hearings rather quickly, get to new business. That question is there. We'll come right back to it.
What's the problem of asking Jim, yes or no, did he look into the easement at Peacedale School to try to get?
Because I'd like a further answer than just yes or no. And if we're going to do that, we should just move the item up.
I don't really understand the reaction, but I'm just going to ask Jim, with that aspect, because what was said, and I just want to make sure, we did explore trying to get an easement through property so that children could go through over there to the school.
I'm a little confused. Can I answer this question?
Of course.
You're running the meeting, so.
All right, we're going to move up this item. We're going to take it up now. Lori gave us a little intro. And the first question is, did we explore the potential easement that ran through a property that abuts the field of Peacedale School that goes into Peacedale School? That's how I understood the question. Go ahead.
We looked at a lot of alternate ways to get there. I don't know if the word easement, I don't know how we could have gotten any easement over there. There was an unofficial easement that went from one house to the other, but I don't remember going door to door asking for an easement.
As I recall, you and I actually talked about it, so we talked about trying to get through people's property.
We did, but I didn't ask for an easement. We looked for an alternate path to get them there.
Okay.
Rich Bourbonnais, can you come on up?
Good evening.
So I know, this issue has been ongoing for a while. As Ms. Horton points out, first time she came here, July 2023, almost 3 years since we've been looking at this. I know you have looked at a number of things related to this, one of which was potential sidewalk, another one was potential crosswalk, and I know some other things. Can you just talk briefly about sort of everything that you've considered, analyzed? Go ahead.
So the potential crosswalk, I just couldn't get my arms around a crosswalk at Patty Hill. Okay, and we talked that one out. I did talk with a property owner up there, and they were not willing to offer an easement through their property at the time. They were looking to sell it. We talked with Ms. Horton regarding an easement through her property because we could come down those stairs and put a crosswalk. She's got stairs that go down onto Kersey Road. We thought we could maybe put a crosswalk there because there was good visibility all the way to Kingstown Road and all the way to North Road. And it was a good spot for a crosswalk. But we're not able to get an easement through that property either. I did get an approval from I would say our consultant, PAR Engineering, got an approval from DEM for the sidewalks. So we have construction-ready plans. The price tag that they've given us as an estimate, and it goes out to competitive bid, is $750,000. So at some point when we are able to maybe procure some money, and like we've discussed, we're going to look for eligible grants that we meet the eligibility for, and we'll make application.
All right. Good. I recall a discussion with the chief at a council meeting as well about potential stoplights and there were concerns about them too. Not necessarily stoplights, but the flashing lights.
Flashing lights, well, there's no crosswalk to put them at, so, but we also want to do this for all the school zones, by the way, and Broad Rock's got them, but the variable speed signs, those types of things, we can certainly install those, but that's not what's the question here, I think.
We also did a traffic study there, paid for by the Brown Department of Transportation, and they did not recommend a crosswalk there.
Right. Just one more question about trying to get children, because we all have the same goal, get children on that street to Peacedale Elementary School. Is there a process for, you don't need a lot of land, there are little people walking, you probably need a 5 or 6 foot strip. What is the process? I guess I'm looking at legal and Jim. What's the process for, I don't know, what's the word? Eminent domain?
If we're gonna take private property, we've gotta compensate the property owners.
Right. But I'm thinking that if it's $1 million to grade the road, I feel like that was the transportation cost for that. Wouldn't it be easier just to try to purchase a strip?
Well, it depends. Look, I'm sorry to interject.
Go ahead.
But it depends on what the crosswalk's for. If we're building a crosswalk specifically for the handful of kids that live in that one neighborhood, then yes. But if we're building a crosswalk that was meant for the community, so people from North Road could have an easy access, that's a different animal.
Okay.
All right. So it's just a different approach. But.
Rich, you said something about some stairs that go down that you weren't able to get an easement on. Could you explain that?
So from Ms. Horton's property, there is a flight of stairs that goes down to Kersey Road, but it just terminates at the road edge. It's not very safe. But we could put a crosswalk there. But in order to do that, what I requested was an easement through Ms. Horton's property so that kids could access, and then go down the
Ms.
stairs.
Horton, who's here, wait, through your yard.
Lori, come on up.
Okay.
Come on up.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say, when we talked about that, I said I had no problem, and it was my understanding that you sent some engineers over and they did some measurements or looked at something, and that was the last I ever heard of it. I've never heard it brought up since then, but I have no objection to an easement like that.
Okay, so the discussion was that, yes, you can have an easement, but it was time certain. We'll give you 1 year, that type of thing. And that's not what we can do, because we do not know where we're going to get money for a sidewalk. And I wouldn't want to put a crosswalk in. It would be dedicated strictly to Ms. Horton's property, because if there's not an easement, there is no point of that crosswalk. It would be dedicated specifically to that one property, and that's just not fair to the neighborhood. It was clear that there was not going to be a permanent easement through that property to get over to Patty Hill Road. I mean, that was the discussion. We spent $100,000 on design now for this sidewalk. Okay, we grant dollars, a lot of it, some of it. And it would cost another $750. I mean, that's where we're at right now.
Lori, do you agree with what he said? Are you willing to give up a permanent easement or an easement for a limited time period? That's what it sounds like he's saying. You can come up and clarify.
I don't recall our discussions ever getting to that point. He said something about an easement, and I said, go for it, and there were some measurements, and that was the last I heard. You're asking me on the spot, would I give a permanent easement? I would have to think about that real hard. I don't think that that's the long-term option here. That's not what we want in the long run. And I do recall some discussion about, yeah, we're just going to do this crosswalk until we can get the sidewalks built. And in which case I would not give a permanent easement, because there is a plan, there's been $100,000 paid on an engineering study, and there's a plan to put sidewalks in. So there wouldn't be any point in me giving a permanent easement across the property and down the stairs for a crosswalk that is going to be taken out in a few years. So
the crosswalk would be taken out once the sidewalk is put in? Can you get back on the microphone, Rich? Clarify that?
No.
Okay.
No, the short answer is no. I would not.
All right, can you say that in the microphone? Perhaps Rich could sit down here and use this one?
No, we would not be taking out that crosswalk. In fact, we would accommodate it with a handicap ramp on the new side, on the new sidewalk, if a sidewalk were eventually built.
Does that change the analysis from your perspective, Lori?
If there's a sidewalk built, then nobody needs to go across my property and go down a steep flight of stairs. If there's a sidewalk, that is going to be the most accessible and the easiest and the safest way for anybody to get anywhere. So to get people walking across the grass through kids' toys and down a steep flight of stairs would make no sense. Do you follow me? If we're going to put a sidewalk in, then you don't need a permanent easement.
Okay.
Just, Rich, briefly. So when did we finish this $100,000 estimate with Perry Engineering? When did that happen?
It was a year and a half ago, I think we began.
Okay. But it ended a year and a half ago?
No, we only just received the permit from DEM.
Okay.
A month ago, maybe two.
Gotcha. And so for this project, has it been incorporated into a CIP?
It was requested, the sidewalk was requested as part of the CIP, but it was put a couple of years out so that we could try to get some dollars for that work.
Gotcha. So it's like in years 3 through 6, you're kind of estimating it.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Go on, please.
Well, I was just going to ask about I know that we applied for the Safe Streets grants from, and, you know, what was the status of all of our federal grant requests for safe sidewalks?
We did not receive it this year.
Right, so it sounds as though we're sort of at a standstill until at the point where we can locate $750,000, which at this point is difficult, or, is not likely to happen this year, right? So.
Well, put it in context, Rich, how much do we spend a year on paving and road improvements?
Well, I think that this coming year, I think it was $600,000 for pavement. We'll spend another.
That's for the whole town.
Yes. So that's what I wanted.
It's going to get us a section of gravelly road, and that's it.
Yeah, so if we look at the context of how much that costs and how much we spend per year on the whole town, you can see the $700,000 is a big number. I mean, we did do a design, and we're hoping to include it in our CIP with the rest of the projects we have going in town.
Right, but without really having it sounds as though it's going to be a while before we can actually do this, and so anything that we could do in the interim with some sort of, I don't know how much, it seems like we need a plan B.
Which is the speed camera request.
Right, so, and that's what we're going to discuss right now, right? The item that we're on. All right, so let's discuss that.
So I have a question. So if the stars align in 3.5 years, we do the sidewalk, great. In the interim, how much time would you need to do the sidewalk if we were to be able to secure an easement? And to be very honest, I didn't think it was you. So I feel like I pulled you into this easement thing, but I thought there was some way that there was a workaround and I wasn't recalling correctly. But if we could do a crosswalk, how is that a quicker thing to sort of implement?
Well, we would have to put we'd have to just, it's a very quick thing to implement, yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Because as much as we can slow down the traffic, it still doesn't help the walker, the person who's walking. So you can put the camera up, but it's sort of like a
physical problem.
Right. So we really do need to work on the crosswalk part, because even if we do the speed cameras, we still need a crosswalk, and we need a sidewalk in a future budget life. Right?
I agree with the crosswalk. If there's a way to get there,
we all agree, but we need an easement.
What are the costs associated with a crosswalk?
The only thing would be we'd have to put a handicap ramp on the other side of the road, but that's, we do that. We can do that in-house. The crosswalk itself is strictly paint. There's a flight of staircase going up to that property, and then we could allow all the children on Patty Hill Road to get through and walk across the crosswalk there at the crosswalk.
So costs are minimal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are costs because we have to pay the property owner.
I feel as though when you initially came here, July 2023, the ask was for a crosswalk.
Yes.
And it took us this long to finally get to a point where it seems like we can potentially get there. I guess it also involves you giving up an interest in real estate, or I guess a little sliver to the town such that this could happen.
Yes. I still believe in a crosswalk discussion. I can bring in engineers. I do not agree with Mr. Manny's interpretation that the last traffic study said they did not recommend a crosswalk. As I recall, there was a line in there that said that there was nothing that would make a crosswalk unsafe. There is the sight line that is required. There's well more than the sight line. The problem that as I recall, according to my notes, Mr. Bourbonnais kept bringing up the speed of the cars. And in his opinion, even though the sight line was sufficient, he thought that cars were going too fast, and he did not want a crosswalk at the bottom of Patty Hill Road. So I still firmly believe that the bottom of Patty Hill Road is the best way. It would also be the quickest and the cheapest because they could put that crosswalk in a matter of weeks. Where to do a study on my property and have an easement go across, you've got to pay a lot of legal fees, a lot of engineering, I don't know what's involved. And they've got to record things with the town, and that is going to be expensive. Where at the bottom of Patty Hill Road, with the traffic, if the speed is controlled,
that bottom of Patty Hill Road is a safe place according to the Crosswind study, which I have looked at over and over and had other engineers look at. It was Mr. Bourbonnais who didn't feel comfortable because he felt that there were too many distractions with the school and that the cars were going too fast.
I just want to correct on that. The DOT study says what it says. There was a line of sight issue. If they had recommended a crosswalk, it would already be in. We also, because there was a low number of people using that road, that it did not warrant a crosswalk.
Yes.
So we didn't make this arbitrarily. We used a very intensive study by the Rhode Island DOT to give us guidance, and their guidance was no. So I disagree with what you're saying.
We can we'll have to debate that another time. It's the Crossman report that he's referring to. It was done in July of 23 or 24. It's a little unclear, and they never say we don't recommend or we do in so many words, but it does meet the sightline requirements. They did say that they didn't think it was necessary because they didn't think there were enough people that would use it. That was the Crosswind conclusion.
I'd like to add 2 points to the discussion. Jim, Chief Moynihan also had concerns about the speed of the cars in the line of sight coming up the hill on Kersey. And for the benefit of the public who's listening to this, part of our discussion in the past has also been, there is a crosswalk. It's 300 or 400 feet the other way that's already there. It does require kids at the bottom of Patty Hill to essentially go left, cross at not Old North Road, just North Road, and then go down the sidewalk on the other side. So it's not like it's impassable. We're trying to balance a lot of issues here.
But we are talking about a different location for potential crosswalk now as compared to what we talked about previously. Am I right on that?
Yes. I would prefer one at the bottom of Patty Hill Road. Mr. Bourbonnais would prefer one at the bottom of my steps, which I had said that I would agree to a short-term easement until the sidewalk's built.
So, as you were talking about the crosswalk 300 feet the other way, that's very similar to Main Street, where you can cross at one juncture or you can just cross at another juncture, and people don't just decide to go any way they want, right? I crossed recently and walked to where I parked to the crosswalk. So we just need, puzzling out the options, and I feel like the one option is sidewalks. That's probably the most expensive option, and it's years away. The second option is enhance Ms. Horton's property crosswalk thing, or a third option is fix what we already have, make it more obvious.
Make the kids go left.
Make the kids go left, right? And
it's like right? It's not.
And 3B would be a speed camera, because I feel like the speed camera, it could happen if that's what 5 people vote on tonight, or direct them to do. But it's also, you still need to solve the other issue.
Right, the real issue, it sounds like the kids could just walk a block up and then over. That's not unreasonable, I don't think.
I'm just trying to think of, like, on Main Street, Rich, there's one like at Kenyon, and then there's one closer to Robinson, right? How many feet is that?
And they're a few hundred feet apart. It doesn't look like it when you're driving it, but they're a couple hundred feet. There are 6 or 7 within a very short period.
Yeah.
But I get calls for crosswalks all the time. Mid-block crossings, DOT does not like them. We don't like them. They're just not as safe because people are in the travelway. They're moving along. It's not safe. When you're in a downtown setting, it's a little different. When you're on Kersey Road, I would suggest that it's a little different because people should be going slow. Unfortunately, they're not. I get calls all the time for crosswalks. I get them from businesses that have one literally 30 or 40 feet away, but they want it in front of their door. And to suggest that, well, I want one right here is just not the way we do it. And the reason why I was concerned about a crosswalk at Patty Hill is because there's a lot of interaction at the school. People aren't paying attention necessarily. They're looking and they're doing all this stuff. There's crossing guards. There's all kinds of stuff. By the time you get to a point where you have to make a decision, it's almost too late. That's the reason. But with a crosswalk at the bottom of those stairs, you can actually see it from the intersection.
Okay.
That's the difference. It needs to be represented properly, but I don't have it in front of me, but we wrote memos on this, and we've gone back and forth on this quite a bit.
So my last question, in therapy we ask people, if we woke up tomorrow and you could miracle fix it, what would you want to fix? This is called the miracle question. What would you want?
Miracle budget we would put a sidewalk in.
Yep.
No question.
Okay.
This is a school zone. It needs a sidewalk on that side of the road.
Okay.
We got to get the funding for that, but that's what it needs.
Okay.
And all these schools are the same.
Okay.
We need to have those types of things, and especially the elementary schools.
Okay. So the miracle is the sidewalk, and so what's the interim until we get the miracle? Is it enhance what we have, or try to get another one?
Be careful with what you say, Rich.
Why?
No, right now, we're talking about a few children, but even one is enough, frankly. But, they can take a left, they can go down to the crosswalk and cross. And the costs involved in putting a crosswalk at the bottom of Patty Hill are equal to putting it at the bottom of the stairs. There's still no handicap ramp on the other side of that Patty Hill, the bottom of Patty Hill. There would have to be a handicap ramp there. So it's the same cost on both. There's no difference. I would.
It's the same cost, but the private easement, not at Patty Hill, is better safety-wise. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's
it's
the
safer.
difference.
I'm
That's
sorry,
the
can
difference.
you
The costs are the
repeat that,
same.
Rich? You're saying that the cost is the same
For your crosswalk at your stairs versus the end of the street, but yours, he believes, is safer because you can see it.
Okay. I disagree, but.
So, Rich, what's wrong with an easement for a limited number of years?
Well, with okay, so
Amy, am I correct that there are certain property interests where one conveys an easement for a number of years? At which point, at the end of the years, that easement terminates?
In theory, it's possible, but it's not typical. When municipalities get an easement from a private property owner, it's typically done as a permanent easement. Otherwise, it's more of a license.
Rich, when your guys, I think they went over and measured, were they talking about angling an easement across the backyard, or were they talking about going down the side of the building straight to the sidewalk?
no, we never got that far.
There's more communication that needs to happen. I don't know.
So that was the one I looked at. There's a wall
Yeah.
at the end over there. That's when we were talking, you and I were first talking. So that's the one I looked at. There was a wall that's elevated, and there was brush that had grown. So we would either had to clear brush on someone else's property, or our kids jump over a wall. And there was no property owner that would accept that type of liability of kids cutting through the back, jumping on a wall several feet high.
Yeah, the easement through Mike and Kara's property is probably, Mike's words were over my dead body. That was not something that he was willing to consider. He's talking about going sideways, I think, from the end of Patty Hill Road straight into the Peacedale school property.
Yeah.
I don't think you would ever convince those homeowners to do that. And I had said that I would do it for a short period of time. And I will, if that's the case. But I have the Crossman Engineering report right here, and I'd like to say on page 4 of 6, safety considerations do not preclude a sidewalk. So this is at the bottom of Patty Hill Road.
Is that the DOT report?
Yes, this is the
That's the
Crossman.
Rhode Island DOT report.
Yes, the Crossman Engineering one.
I'd have Rich, you and I will have to pull it and look at it, because I know there's 2 reports floating around. I don't believe it is.
This is the one that was done on the council's request after actually it was May of 23 when I first brought this up. This is dated.
All right, Laura, before you go further, we did flesh this out at length. I don't know how long ago it was, but we talked about it for a long period. It got into good conversation, good collaboration.
Yes.
You know, ultimately, our Public Works Director and Chief of Police recommended it did not make sense or wasn't supported by the data to have a crosswalk at that location. So that, as far as we're concerned, we're no longer considering that.
Well, we
And if you
were
rebut the
promised a
facts
sidewalk.
or the assumption who lied, that's okay. Now we're talking about a different location, which it appears some of us have interest in exploring. If you're willing to continue to have conversations with Rich Bourbon to potentially get there, I can certainly support it.
But we still need a traffic camera. We still need to slow that traffic down. And that is the agenda item tonight, and that is what I would like to see the council discuss and vote on tonight. Is can we put a speed camera? And I'm really disappointed that Chief Moynihan isn't here tonight, because there was a traffic study done in July, I believe in 2024, and it recommended a traffic camera, and that was presented to the school board, and it never went anywhere after that. So I don't have the specifics, I do not have that report, but I know Chief Moynihan has spoken in favor of traffic cameras at meetings that I have been at, particularly, I think, the January meeting. I'm not sure, I have to look at my notes. But
I mean, we can broadly discuss it tonight. We certainly need more information to be able to decide let's move forward with it. Having our chief, not present now is not helpful. So, certainly at a later meeting, he can look into this further, talk to us. I have a number of questions. We hear a lot about, what are the different methods by which you can use to address traffic concerns. One of them is the speed cameras, one of them is the sidewalk, and there are a number of different things.
Right.
I'd sort of like to flesh all that out before we just sort of get into it and be like, yeah, this makes sense.
Either way, I am still requesting a speed camera at Peacedale School. And given that Chief Moynihan's not here to address it tonight or answer the questions that I'm sure you have, could I ask that it be put on next month's agenda again?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you. I sent you all of you, the Patty Hill things that I had in my email.
All right, Jim, we'll address this in second meeting in April. Let's make sure we have Chief Moynihan present, and that way we can have, any questions we have related to the impacts, the effects, et cetera. He'll be here. All right, now we're going to move back up to public hearings. 9A is a public hearing relative to an application for transfer of a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956 as amended as follows. Class B victular liquor license, transfer of a Class B victular liquor license from A&S Investments, LLC, doing business as Terminacy's Cafe, by Albert Terminacy, partner, to Jack's Place, LLC, doing business as Jack's Place by Quinn Early, owner for the first floor bar and dining areas, and as further defined in a site plan on file in the town clerk's office. Said transfer is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation, filing of a certificate of insurance evidencing required liability coverage, compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees and arrears to the town, the correction of any fire code violations, and the satisfaction of all claims. Quinn?
Yes.
All right, we know what this relates to, but this is a public hearing, so we do have to allow anyone who's here to speak on this matter to come on up. We just ask that anyone who's interested to identify themselves. All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing? All right, we got a motion and a second and a discussion. All in favor? Aye. All right, the public hearing is now closed. Before we do that, we'll have to affirm the number of outstanding liquor licenses. All right, so we'll now move to the next public hearing, open it up, close it, then move down, affirm the number of licenses, come back, approve these two public hearings.
We're going to do this twice?
So now we're going to take up the other public hearing, close it, then affirm the number of licenses, then take up the items.
Do we do it again for George?
We're doing it right now.
Oh.
Item B is a public hearing relative to an application for transfer of a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956 as amended as follows. Class B victular liquor license, transfer of a Class B victular liquor license from Yankee Foods LLC, doing business as Muse Tavern, by Jeff Cammons, manager, to 456 Opco LLC, doing business as Muse Tavern, by Matthew Lyons, representative, for the first and second floor mezzanine and third floor lounge, including a 40-foot expansion as described in the special exception granted April 20, 1994, and special use permits granted September 17, 1997, and January 21, 2004 by the Zoning Board of Review, an additional tavern area in accordance with a special use permit granted on February 20, 2013, an expanded service area at the rear of the existing building within the existing parking lot consisting of a curbside pickup kiosk and hostess station with dining, seating, and border separation from the parking and vehicle access, approximately 8,000 square feet in accordance with the special use permit granted March 17, 2021 by the Zoning Board of Review, and as further defined in site plans dated March 7, 2013 and April 14, 2021 on file with the town clerk's office. All right, Mr. Lyons, we know what this relates to. Again, this is a public hearing, so we have to allow anyone who wishes to speak on this to come on up. Anyone in the audience wants to speak on this matter, anybody come on up. All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing? Second. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? George, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, the public hearing is now closed. We're now going to move down to new business item 10A, a resolution affirming the town's liquor license rules and regulations, section 1. The current number of licenses for each class is showed below. Do I hear a motion affirming the number as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, it's now going to bring us back to public hearing, item 9A and 9B. We can take them together.
Motion to approve items 9A and 9B.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, those pass. You guys are all set.
We're all good. Congratulations to Jack's Place. We'll be in April 10th, so soon. On Mondays, you should give us a post-meeting.
Bring back the spicy Thai wings. We're going to be doing burgers and beers Mondays, $15 for a pint and a burger. So,
nice. Excellent.
We'll be before the meeting.
We'll be open till 11.
11, Lori. We can do this.
We're up until 10.
Yeah, food till 10, dude.
Okay.
Can we call ahead?
Absolutely.
Adjourn.
Thank you. Send the menu to Jim.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're now going to jump to public hearing item D. That is a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 11, Nuisances, Article 3, Construction Activities, Section 11-26, Exemptions. Amy, we know what this relates to, but you want to just give us a little briefing on this?
This would establish an exemption to the construction activities portion of the nuisance ordinance, which sets forth, date and time restrictions on construction activities. It would exempt construction or demolition activities on town-owned property in connection with town council-approved school construction projects. And it would require advance public notice of the construction activity. So it would be an exemption to the ordinance, but it would only apply to school construction projects that the council has approved, and it would require public notice of the construction activity.
Thank you, Amy. We do have a representative from Gilbane, who is the entity that's working on the school construction for the new high school. Want to come on up, just kind of talk briefly. This is really what it's for, why we're doing it.
There's no Kate Phil buffer. Come on up, Mark.
Just me today. Thank you. So as I've come up before, we're coming before you with some advance notice of a couple of construction activities that we have upcoming that may possibly put us past the 9 p.m. Window of construction needing to stop. So, in the way of being a good neighbor and knowing the community and wanting to be upfront with everything we're doing, we came before you to let you know that this is happening. Now, this is something that we're going to be doing over the course of the next couple of weeks, probably, to start. It is a very limited window, potentially, for individual evenings when this may occur. We're going to be pouring concrete, and I think, as we've said before, that concrete needs time to cure. And on many occasions or in previous projects, we've gone past the 9 o'clock window with an early start. So, and there's many times where we haven't, and it's when we've been able to finish on time. So, just wanted to get it out in front of everybody, to be upfront, letting everybody know what's happening, and hopefully we go forward from there.
All right, thank you. Any questions from members?
Just to remind the members of the public, when Kate Turner was here with you discussing it at the last meeting, it's necessary as part of the mechanical process, physical process for curing the concrete.
It is.
To do this, and that depends on the weather and where you are in a particular day in the work process, that it may go that late. We also requested, and I believe Kate has already complied with giving not just the legal definition of butters, but the neighborhood notice that this is going to be happening, and it's going to be happening on a limited basis.
It is. My understanding is the abutters notices have gone out. I can't tell you that they've been received, but I know that they have gone out as Left Field had promised. So those are out on the street, I believe. And yeah, it's something that, once you pour concrete, you're at the whim of the concrete. There's nothing you can do to make it go any quicker. Temperature is certainly a factor. We're in April. It was in the 30s today. Hopefully we come out of it in the next week or two, but we may not be, and so that may take us to be a little bit longer in getting the concrete to finish. And once you pour it, you can't stop. So it's kind of.
I just wanted, you go first up. Well, it's going to be about the sound of a lawnmower, correct?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. I mean, it's going to be dark, right? So we're going to have some lights on because we're going to be able to see what we're doing. There's a couple of pieces of equipment that we're going to need. One is the equivalent of a push lawnmower with probably the same noise associated with it. And one would be something that you sit on and ride around, more like a ride-around mower, again, with the same rough engine on it, the same amount of noise you're probably going to potentially hear. It's not anything that's banging. It's not heavy equipment. It's not anything like that.
So a couple of residents in that area have described prior construction activities where the items on their mantle are shaking off the mantle. So I know they live fairly close, obviously,
yeah.
But I'm just concerned that this change in the ordinance really extends it for always, right? So it had to conclude at 9. It's not just this special project of buffing the concrete. It's for any extended time that you need. You will now be able to build and construct after 9 o'clock, correct? So it's opening it up.
I mean, I don't want to get into the policies and the procedures of what's being voted on tonight. I can just tell you that this particular instance is initially we'll be pouring concrete. It's a one-time deal.
Right.
And I don't foresee anything else coming up down the road throughout this project. But that's not to say something may come up.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I understand it's a curing the concrete. Everyone understands, and we want you to do that as these one-time, 3 to 4 times in the next 6 weeks thing. But then now we're going to amend the ordinance so that they can operate later, anytime without permission? No?
No, Andy's description was only with the council's permission.
Every time? No.
No?
That's not how I heard it.
No, it would establish a blanket exemption, so,
But it relates to only town council approved projects.
so the exemption won't be applicable unless the council approves the school construction project. So, but then the exemption would apply.
So, for example, if they're going to build a new parking lot in Matunic or a new roof, that may not fall under we might not be in the purview of organizing that project. So this amended ordinance doesn't apply. But for the high school, we've expanded the hours that they can work. And so to be thoughtful to the people that are around the high school, we just need to realize that there are people who said it was very loud and very noisy, and then they're like, you're going to go later? So For the one-offs, these 3 to 4 construction, concrete buffing, I'm all for it, but I don't know if we wanna open up in the summer, the next 6 months, where people are even more outside, that they can operate as needed anytime they need to because we've amended the law. How do we work that so that it's not that?
So I sit on the school building committee, I've been there since day one. We're very, we recognize the concerns of the residents. We've tried our best to mitigate issues that may arise with them, and I think we've done a fairly good job. First question the school building committee asked Mark was, if we did not grant this, what would happen? He said the date would move forward. I can't guarantee that we would get all this done on time.
No, I understand that.
So, but it was my understanding that because it was town-approved construction projects, it would have to be that they would have to go back to the council to ask every time they wanted to work late or whatever. That's the way it was described to me. But I guess it's not.
And Amy, the ordinance only applies outside of certain hours. Can you just remind us on that?
Correct. The ordinance only prohibits construction activities outside of certain hours. Now, if the council wants to redraft the ordinance, we can redraft it, but it's not drafted so that the school building committee would have to come back before the council every time.
And just to be clear, you're not expecting to go outside of the ordinance hours a lot, right?
No, this is something that we have can foresee as a potential issue of us having to maybe go outside of those time frames. It may not, and then no, I do not foresee any other ones other than what we're talking about right now.
I don't have any issue with the concrete piece, but I think that once we open it up, that they can do what they need to without coming back to us, the residents are going to be very upset. About the noise. They had the dust issue. We had dust coming through in the smackdown phase, right? And now we're into a new phase that's loud, and it could be at all hours.
Well, just to be clear, this is only for the concrete laying, right?
No, we're changing the ordinance.
As far as I'm concerned, right now I'm before you talking about pouring concrete and our potential to go past 9 p.m. in that instance. That's all.
Right. So to calm these fears down that it's going to be opened up for anything, can you guarantee that if it's for anything else, you come back to us for more permission?
Absolutely. That's kind of why we did what we did. We're looking to get out in front of it. We're trying to be good neighbors. We understand not everybody's on board, and there are impacts to that neighborhood.
I'm satisfied with that guarantee.
And the ordinance applies after what hours? 9 p.m.?
Correct. And ends at?
To 7 a.m.?
When the concrete is cured for these issues, like, it just doesn't.
7 a.m.
Yeah, it's a 7
Okay, so the ordinance only applies to those hours of after 9 p.m. and before 7 a.m. So any construction activities that occur in those hours, the ordinance applies. You're only looking for this exemption because there's a small piece here where you may not have construction activities outside those hours, which would make you subject to the nuisance, but with the exception here, no longer applicable. Now, let me ask you this. Is it typical that construction activities would occur after 9 p.m. and before 7 p.m.? Sorry, after 9 p.m. and before 7 a.m. with any project?
I mean, there are projects out there that are bid upon and built second shift. There's other ones that are built third shift. That is not this project. This project was put out on the street, bid, and approved to be performed during normal working hours.
And the only reason I'm asking the question, I'm trying to address her concern.
Yeah.
That if we enact the ordinance, provides for the exemption, and then I'm trying to get a feel of what type of construction activities in general would occur during those hours. I would think it wouldn't be much, but I guess there are activities out there, not related to this project, but just in general.
Yeah.
Maybe it would help the council to know our school construction activities, our school construction projects specifically usually bid as first shift. Is that standard?
Yes, correct. Yeah. We're typically working within the normal town's ordinances on every school project. But there's things that come up during the construction, like the concrete, that have in the past taken us past that window, not dramatically. It's not something that we plan on doing all the time. It's just something that could come up.
So The opposite question is, if we didn't amend the ordinance, what is the impact? I mean, if they had to, right, so they have to buff the concrete 3 times, aren't we the person who's enforcing our own code? I don't understand. If they didn't do it.
You mean if they did not do this?
No.
If they did not put them to the
If
variance?
they ignored and said, or just said, we need to buff the concrete, we're not, if we didn't have this change,
Oh,
why,
yes,
why make the
the building
change?
inspector's office would enforce it like anyone else.
And what would happen? They would be cited?
We'd cease and desist. If they did this on their own, without coming to us proactively, we would handle it like any other complaint they came in from the building inspector's office. So,
How about this? It would be a cease and desist. The way the ordinance is currently written, it's a $200 fine for your first offense and a $500 fine for every offense thereafter.
Okay.
Is there a way to make this ordinance specific to the high school project, in that it doesn't apply to anything else other than the high school project?
I would, if we're gonna redraft it that extensively, we'd have to re-advertise it. It would be something different. Yes, we can redraft it that way, but we couldn't adopt it tonight.
So there's no, I'm looking at what's attached to the agenda. I don't see the times. There's no times. It's just any time they need for this high school project or any town council approved project. Am I missing the times?
No, we talked about the times.
But they're not in this attachment?
Well, they're in the nuisance ordinance. We're just looking at the exemptions.
I'm looking at construction activities. It's on the agenda.
One section, 1126 is exemptions, and it's adding a subsection 5.
Yep.
But that doesn't have the general ordinance in it. That's just the part that's being amended.
I see. So I have to look at the municipal code.
I mean, I think it's good for efficiency purposes. In the event that, the town owns a property, that the town council's approved a project, it would sort of negate the need for that particular project to receive an exemption from the ordinance so that it wouldn't violate the nuisance ordinance.
And I think the other thing the council can consider is whether, I think, you could be said to, the council could be said to have sufficient control over the school construction process through the school building committee. I mean, they're in front of you on a regular basis. So for future school construction projects, you could control it that way by specifically requesting, from day one or before day one, right, what the proposed construction schedule is and potential requests or needs to work outside of the normal hours.
I guess I'm just confused because if they don't anticipate going after 9, we're amending the law instead of just saying we want to give an exemption or, is there another way? It just seems crazy, but whatever. What do I know?
There's a number of different ways you could draft this. So if the council doesn't want to adopt the ordinance as drafted, just give me some direction on how to redraft it. But if it's going to be specific to this construction project, I think it's different from what was advertised.
You need the approval of this meeting or else it's going to slow down the project.
I was just going to say, I just want everybody to be aware that we are currently scheduled to do our first pour on March 31st, which is next Tuesday.
I'm happy to move it along because I just want to say to Mark, because I don't want to delay the high school and I don't want to even delay tonight. Mark, we have a relationship with you. You come every month. You would come and say to us, there's an issue that we need to be up until 11 o'clock because this pipe fitter, blah, blah, whatever it is. You're going to be proactively saying that because I just want to be very much in front of the residents because it is a lot. It's
guaranteed at 10 minutes.
I'm going to pinky promise you,
I'm a resident of Matonic. I'm a taxpayer. That community is my community.
So you're going to tell us.
That's why we're here in front of you to try to get in front of it.
So I'm happy to support it, but you're going to come and tell us if there's anomalies, or you're going to tell Jim so that we know, and we're going to do a really good job of telling residents.
Absolutely.
Okay. I really thank you for being so upfront and trying to get ahead of it, and it's great. Thank you.
All right, so this is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience wants to speak on this item? Anybody, just come on up. Just going to ask that you identify yourself. That's it, first come, first serve. Seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing? Got a motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor? The public hearing is now closed. Do I hear a motion on item D?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve item D. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. Go get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, we're going to move to item C, a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the South Kingstown Town Code, Chapter 19, Utilities, Article 3, Water Supply, Division 8, Penalties, and Division 10, Water Supply Restrictions. We've got Rich Bourbonnais. We also have representative from Veolia Water. Rich, what do we got here?
So, the long-awaited irrigation ordinance, we talked about this back in the fall, was when we got going on it. The solicitor's office was real quick about it and real helpful, and helped pull together what we believe might help us out through the summer months. This would be an ordinance that would restrict irrigation only to 2 days a week in the areas of the South Shore Middlebridge Water Districts and the Veolia Water Districts. Last time I was here, when this was introduced, there were a couple of concerns that were voiced, so we revised the ordinance accordingly to try to meet those. We've also developed, I created a memo to just a little bit of an understanding of how we're going to promote this. We're going to promote conservation techniques through our systems. We're going to work with Veolia, and they're going to try to do the same, and so that we can attack this from all different areas and make it as easy as possible for our residents. Some of the changes that came about with the ordinance, we did provide some exemptions. Watering of flowers and vegetable gardens is allowed as long as you're doing it with a hose. We just don't want aerial irrigation, throwing water up into the air. That's effectively what we're trying to reduce. The way this is structured, it would provide us an opportunity to recoup the reserve that we need on Wednesdays. You would be restricted on Wednesdays, and you would be restricted on the weekends, so we could kind of get back to a place of normalcy and then prepare for the next, the day of irrigation. We divided the town into multiple districts, so we have the Veolia side, because remember these districts are separated. Veolia is divided down the Saugatucket. We needed something that went north to south, and our GIS coordinator, Tracy Owens, was real good with determining the number of homes on either side, so we were able to balance the town really well. We divided the South Shore down Moonstone Beach Road, east and west, and that balanced out the number of homes pretty well on the South Shore. Okay, unless there are questions, there's one more thing I wanted to add. Chris and I have been talking through this process, but there's one thing that came up just recently, but I would not mind adding between Memorial Day and Labor Day as the period of time that this would be active. That would allow for, and we talked about, people, when you're going to establish a new lawn, you're going to do that in the fall. Normally people want to prepare their new lawns. They want to do it in the fall. It's the best time of year because then you really get 2 growing seasons before it gets too dry. You get the fall time, you establish the grass, then you get the springtime. That's another growing season, a growing period, and then it gets dry. But by then you've established a lawn. So generally, I think that putting that parameter in there might help that situation. We might put a caveat in there that just. I think it's already sort of covered. We do say that there could be an imposition on item E, an imposition and removal of more stringent restrictions So that it could be that we have to extend that Labor Day out, depending on what, if there are drought conditions, we may extend it longer. That gives us the provision to do that. But to say Memorial Day to Labor Day, I think might help this alleviate the pressure again. And I don't know if Chris wants to say anything, or Chris Jacobs from Veolia Water, and we can just answer questions.
Where is the consequence for violating a potentially new adopted ordinance? Am I missing that?
So in my memo, I do discuss issue violations as necessary. So the violations would be in accordance with Section 19, 291, and 292, where we are going to issue a notice of violation first. It'll be a notice, and then if you do it again, you could be subject to fines. It could mean municipal court.
So, looking at the Veolia website, I see here, and I've brought this up before again about all of the awards that Veolia wins with their New York Conservation Program. See that you win the EPA Water Sense Excellence Award for New York, that you encourage your customers to replace outdated fixtures with water-efficient devices, and that Veolia has awarded over 14,000 rebates to customers in New York, resulting in over 220,000 gallons per day of water savings. And I see that Veolia has been previously recognized with these awards as well. And so when Rich was talking, he mentioned that Veolia, or Chris, you would try to help us out with those types of things. And so I would like to hear from you what programs that Veolia is offering to great success in New York will you bring to South Kingstown so that we can offer our residents the same sort of benefits of being with a large company like Veolia?
Sure. I've already been in talks with our customer service teams from New York. We are part of that division, so we share resources. So I'm working with our teams over there to kind of see what we can do to duplicate all that effort and those rebates and so on over Rhode Island. So we are in the process of working that out. And once I get more information, I'll be able to roll those programs out and inform you.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. Yeah. Thank you very much for following up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Rich, I see that the penalties are $500 for the first day, and then every day is a new fine. Is that correct?
Up to $500. So it would be subject to a visit to municipal court, but it could be up to that much. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how is enforcement going to work?
So with our system, I can let Chris speak to his, but with our system, I'm able to track hourly what people are consuming. So what we can do is we can query we can divide the town into its districts. We can query those residences based on general use. And we could say within every day, if you've used 500 gallons in a day, that's a pretty large amount for a single-family residential. Generally, we can see 100 to 200, but we can see as much as 300. We're not going to be worried about the ones that are the homes that are under those values. But once you start getting into the 500 gallon a day range, then we're gonna go and take a look. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to document it. We may have to photograph it, the wet grass, usually there's wet, asphalt. Our guys are up and around very early in the morning. This is not a difficult thing for us to try to get our arms around. Now, what I fear though is that we end up with thousands of them, and that's an issue, but that's a chance we have to take. And we just, in order to move this forward, we've got to get everybody to a point where they understand that this exists. Then they can start programming their irrigation to do the right thing.
Sure, that makes sense. And then just briefly, you talked about June 2026 in your memorandum will be the educational part of that. Is that correct, that you wrote in your memory?
Yeah, I believe that what we want to do is we want to start looking for some more of the educational on water conservation and things like that, somewhere in that June range. But even by April, I want to, if everything goes the way, if an approval happens, if it happens, by April next month, I'd like to get a card out to everybody. And I think we can do that so that everybody understands this ordinance exists. We'll point them in the right direction. And then we're going to start posting things on our social medias, all those things, and we'll put something in the newspaper, all of that. But then we'll start rolling out. We do have some conservation information related to conservation. Bonnie Blair and Mackenzie Lafredo and also Charlotte Canner in my office are already working on pulling information together, so we're going to try to get that going sometime April, June.
Well, that's good to hear that you have a plan, Rich. And Chris, you and I have talked about kind of looking at how Veolia can start educating its customers, right? Our taxpayers here and residents. And, I've seen around energy infographics like, this is how much you've used, this is an energy efficient house, this is the average rate. I think those are really helpful for a customer to be like, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing this, and these are the strategies that we can use instead of just like a pink slip or something, right?
Yep. So to piggyback on that is on our meters, so we don't have the full saturation that town of South Kingstown has with the new meters. But those, the ones that we do put in, you can sign up and you can actually get real-time usage on your home screen. You can see when your peak demands are, and we try and educate our customer base on that. So as we're getting a bigger saturation, that's becoming more of a reality for all of our customers. You can find that on the website. But yeah, like I said, we are still going to be working with our New York team to see what we can do better. Piggyback off of what they've done and bring that here, and just keep up the education process.
Thanks, Chris.
So in terms of education, and I love that you're going to send a card, I think that's great, but could you possibly, is it too challenging to identify those high users and do an additional something to them, like the highest residential homes who are using, whatever, I think you said 5,000 gallons a day, right? To identify them and do an additional mailing, or I don't know how many, is it 20 homes, is it 300 homes? I have no idea.
Also, but they'll be notified, they'll be notified with a notice of violation.
Right.
But are you suggesting we call them out?
No, I'm saying we already know who's a heavy user.
Yes. Oh, you're saying, I see.
Last year's heavy users get a specific memo, or better than a card, a letter saying, based on your usage, you're getting this specific memo. We want to make you aware of this change.
I'll do that. That's fine.
Because to me, you get a postcard and you flip it right into the recycling. But I think a different letter, this is going out to certain households we've identified as high users. We want to make you aware of the change and then the resources, because I feel like they're going to go, I'm doing it anyway.
That's right. So that's a great idea. I'll put together a letter that goes as a separate mailing, different from just a card.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And we know who those.
You know who they are.
We've got all that data. So
right.
Very good.
And then I just wanted to ask Chris about the snow. We've had a lot, and pouring rain. Let's give us an update on the wells and their replenishment right now. Are we out of the drought? They're full.
No, I didn't say they're full. No, we're monitoring. We've gotten some good uptick from the snow melt. We got another round of well levels that we're going to be taking this week. So we'll see how much the rain has helped. But just to bring you up to speed, they actually did reconvene the drought steering committee last week. So there was no action taken because of this rain and the excess snow that happened. But just so you know, the state was on the verge of a drought over the winter again. And so they did reconvene the drought steering committee. So we have another, next month they'll have another meeting, and so we'll get an update. But we are heading in the right direction. We did get quite a bit of replenishment from the snow melt. Mm-hmm. We're still seeing that effect. It takes a little bit for it to percolate. So we are seeing some uptick. So we are very optimistic
the rain keeps going, we're in a good trajectory, so.
Chris, we all thought about you with all this snow, and we thought about the melting
Yeah.
of the snow, and
I've
we,
been,
we,
We don't wanna see you in July.
I don't want you to see me either. I've been very happy. It was great to see that. Everybody else was complaining. I was jumping around. I was very happy.
think of the aquifer, that's all.
That's it, yeah. So just thinking of the aquifer. But yes, it has helped us. We're still not exactly where we want to be, but we're trending in the right direction. This rain is helping, and it just looks like we're still getting some more, so. Yeah.
Okay.
So aside from the replenishment of the aquifer from all the rain and the snow, Rich, when you mentioned tweaking the ordinance for Memorial Day to Labor Day, that's sort of the other side of the equation, which is addressing it when the highest usage comes, particularly for this area?
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
Rich, I got some questions. I want to sort of dive into this. So it starts off with the fees here, and it references section 19-291. It says, any person who shall continue any violation beyond the time limit provided for in section 19-291. What is that time limit provided for in that section?
It's actually not, 291 doesn't have a hard time limit. It just says the notice that the town sends of a violation shall include a time for compliance.
All right, so what's the typical time to comply that you provide to a household when they're in violation of a water ban, for example?
Well, in this case, it technically should be the next day, but we'll say a week from now, we're going to review it again, and if you are continuing to have that, we'll come up with something along those lines. It'll generally be a form letter. I mean, it's
essentially a notice, you're in violation. If you continue to violate, then you'll be subject to the fee for every day that you violate.
But what we'll do, though, is this notice of violation is going to refer specifically to the ordinance. It's going to also, I think, we'll have to explain clearly on, you can still irrigate, you just have to do it on different days than you're doing, and we'll limit, we'll explain it clearly in a letter. I'll come up with a letter for that.
All right, a few other questions. I would like to see that this be applicable only during the times of Memorial Day through Labor Day. I think that would be a good place to sort of start with this versus having it, applicable year-round. I think that sort of addresses the main concerns, the high consumption usage months, and in the event that it's working well, it allows us to not have it apply all year round. It's a way to sort of ease into it as opposed to just go, we're all in.
And we agree with that. Yeah, we agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Another question I have, it references a lot of use of sprinklers or sprinkler operation. Is that a defined term in the ordinance? Like within a section that I don't see here? The reason I ask that is, is that just commonly understood language? I think of like a hose, but we're talking about a sprinkler.
Yeah, so it is not a defined term. What was changed between the time the council last saw it and now is language was added in section 19-318A, clarifying that this is about lawn and landscape irrigation.
All right, so
it doesn't even apply to kids, playing in a sprinkler. It's about sprinklers for lawn and landscape irrigation.
So you're saying the purpose section helps bring clarity to what the meaning of sprinkler is?
Not the meaning of sprinkler itself, but if you're thinking about what is a sprinkler, it would be in connection with lawn and landscape irrigation.
So your daughter could be in the sprinkler this summer and it would be fine on any day. That's.
Yeah, but I think of a sprinkler as the thing that sort of is hooked up to a hose, but some people just use a hose. And maybe I'm just thinking.
So hand watering is allowed.
Yeah.
We're allowing that.
You're allowing what?
Hand watering with a hose.
Okay, that was my next question. What does hand watering refer to?
Hand watering of like your garden or flowered potted plants or even landscape material. You can hand water it with a hose. We just don't want aerial spraying. And sprinklers is an aerial spraying of water.
Are there other means to sort of irrigate your yard without using a sprinkler?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but it's
Okay,
very
and if
inefficient.
so, does that means to do it fall outside the ordinance?
Yeah, like,
So-
we could use a hose, and
So just leave the hose on all day,
we could,
and that is not fall of the ordinance.
right.
I think that the ordinance, though, is addressing people using irrigation on automatic systems way too often, right? Like, because I think that what we're seeing is properties having sprinklers that go off at 5 a.m. before everybody's up, and using a ton of water, way too much water, and then it just going away by 7 a.m. because it warmed up. And it's not the hand watering, right? Like you have a watering thing, and you go, you fill it up in your sink, and then you go outside and you water all your flowers. That's okay. But it's really like the automatic systems, right, Rich?
It is. The intent is that, but I understand what you're saying. I guess, I mean, does it allow for, and maybe
But it's still gonna show up when you're metering of daily usage.
And then
Nobody's gonna stand there and hold a hose for 8 hours.
Exactly. So to follow your thought, if you leave the hose on and you walk away for 8 hours, tomorrow, the next day, Rich will be like, Rory McEntee used 1,000 gallons of water. Let me go see what happened. And you're going to go, oh, I left the hose on by accident.
And for the record, this is a hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Oh, I would do that.
What I'm trying to point out is the potential, someone gets a violation, they come to municipal court and they say, Your Honor, I don't have a sprinkler. I didn't use a sprinkler. The ordinance is specific to sprinkler operation, and I've decided for that. I don't even own one.
It's specific to irrigating lawns. And we do allow hand watering of flowers and vegetable gardens.
So technically, hand watering of a lawn, just watering the grass with a hose, would not fall within the exemption. It would be subject to the ordinance.
But it is prohibited for certain hours. I see that. What, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.?
Yeah.
And what is
even on your on day, even a day where you are allowed to irrigate, you would be limited to the morning or the evening hours. You can't do it through the middle of the day.
So how did you come to that 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.?
Well, so generally that's when you're going to have the highest rates of evaporation.
And if you spray during 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., it's just going to melt, or it's just going to evaporate. I don't think this is a bad ordinance. I think this is a good
just flushing through the word.
No, I don't think, and I'm not implying that. Don't worry.
So to address some residents' concerns, you can put a sprinkler out for your kids. You can't put a sprinkler out to water your lawn.
That's right.
Right? It's going to be on good faith, right? You obviously, it's a pattern, right? If one time I use a sprinkler and I say it's for my children, that's not a pattern of every other day I'm dropping 1,000 gallons on my lawn. You would know.
We would know.
So the first notice of violation may not come with a fine, or it may not come with go to municipal court. It might be an education.
The first violation is not coming. It's not going to municipal
So it's
court.
education.
It is not. It is strictly education.
So it accounts for that one time I left the hose on, or one time I used the sprinkler.
That's right.
This is fine and fair to me. I think the hand watering, I'm excited I can use my hose. I was thinking I was going to be hauling buckets to my garden. So I'm excited.
Can I ask a question about the community garden that's behind Wakefield Elementary that it was like a small sprinkler, but we would like turn it on and then move it around the garden so that each part of the garden could get watered. The person was like there, moving it around.
So I would tell you this doesn't allow that. But that doesn't mean there aren't 2 days a week where you're allowed to irrigate. So it's just that we don't want
it's
it
like the garden,
every day of the week.
But it's like growing food to donate for hungry people.
Yeah.
if you took that sprinkler off and you put a nozzle hose on and you watered everything like that,
They're allowed to go in
you
water.
can do that.
You have to hand water if you
It's
want
just not
to.
air.
It's not bad.
So that way you can still use a mist, right? Get all those, the mist, none of that,
It'll be fine.
surging.
Hey, question, Amy. I'm looking at subsection C, imposition and removal of more stringent restrictions. So in the event there was, I don't know, some ambiguity here and someone was trying to exploit it, this section here empowers Rich to sort of address that potentially.
The way I read that section is the ordinance does a couple different things, dividing into districts, giving you your day, and then the blanket ban on sprinklers between 10 and 2. But the way I read sub E.
Subsection C.
Oh, sub C.
It sort of empowers Rich to either lighten the restrictions or make them more strict.
If there's a sudden severe drought, that it would empower the director to temporarily be more restrictive than the ordinance allows.
It'd basically be imposing a water restriction like we have in the past. It just allows for that, should we get to that point. It could be like we have.
Here's a hypothetical, and I might just be thinking too far into this. This relates to irrigation of lawns, right? But let's say someone were to just leave their hose on all night. The water's not even touching the lawn. They're using it for some other purpose. I guess that falls outside the ordinance.
It does.
But subsection C, if the consumption is so high, even though it's not being used for lawns, does it empower you to sort of impose a fine or try to limit the activity?
That is district-wide. So what we're saying there is it allows us to, if we have a severe drought, we could impose a greater restriction, such as a full water ban or odd even day or something like that. So that's all that's allowing is for, it's just recognizing that there could be a situation where a greater restriction is necessary. Generally, this is effectively odd even day. This is basically what that is. So,
And I think it's important to understand, yes, that would give the director authority to go even outside the scope of the ordinance.
But it's basically, he had that before.
Maybe I don't see a subsection E. Is there a subsection E?
Yeah, that's below now when we renumbered it.
Imposition and removal of more stringent restrictions when the
That's
director. It's in
subsection C.
It's crossed out and the E is there.
That's, you might, if you're looking at the version attached to the memo.
I'm looking at the version attached to the agenda.
Okay. If you click on the director's memo.
But either way, we're looking at the same section. Okay.
So,
I have a question for Amy. If we're going to tweak the ordinance to say Memorial Day through Labor Day, I assume the place to put that would be at the beginning of subsection B.
Yes, applicability.
yeah, in fact, I sketched out that at the end of that paragraph, it would say Southeastern Water Districts between Memorial Day and Labor Day of each year. As simple as that, and then that way, if we had to, we could still look to, item E, to a greater restriction if necessary. It kind of provides us all of that.
so, and this doesn't apply to farms or people who have livestock.
So that's something that I think we need to clarify in the ordinance, because that was brought to my attention today, that state law and the town code law and the town code requires notification to farmers on certain matters, one of which is restrictions that affect water use by farms. So it is not, we don't have agricultural operations stated one way or another in this ordinance as written, but I think to be very clear that it would not apply to agricultural operations, I would request language, again, in the exemption section stating the restrictions in this section shall not apply to properties used for agricultural operations as indicated on the list established by the Division of Agriculture at the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management as provided for in General Laws 1956, Section 2-23.1-3. And that's using the same language from our notification to farmers ordinance. Because I think if we were to apply this ordinance to agricultural operations, we would have to give that notification in advance.
I was going to say, probably the best thing would be second meeting in April, have both of those changes written into a revised version, the applicable dates and the exemption for agriculture. And once that's in, there may be people in the agriculture industry that want to come in and talk about it. I think we need to give them that specific opportunity.
Does that work for you, Rich?
Yeah.
All right, here's a question. Just want to clarify, we've talked through this a number of times. As it's written here, this would apply to those who receive water from Veolia, and I'm looking at the applicability section here. So subsection B, that receive water from Veolia Water Rhode Island, Inc. or its successors, and South Kingstown Water Districts. Now, you described what the makeup of that is. Can you just do it one more time? When we say South Kingstown Water Districts, that's South Shore and Millbridge?
Yes.
Okay, and those who receive water from Veolia, that is everybody else?
Well, it's everybody in the central part of town.
Okay.
We still have another water district, Kingston Water, and they do not want to be included.
Okay. Now, here's another question. Those persons in town who have a well?
They're not included.
Okay, this wouldn't apply to them?
Would not apply.
Okay, because there was some conversation, they still draw on the same aquifer as, Veolia or the town water districts, whatever. Okay, got it.
Yeah, jurisdictionally, we don't have any control over that. So.
Got it. And I don't know if you'll have this information or not. How much of the town, I guess geography-wise, or persons, if you can have it broken down to that, actually receive water from Veolia and or part of the South Kingstown Water District? Is that like a large majority? Or?
So Veolia has about 5,200, 5,300 accounts. South Kingstown, South Shore, Middlebridge, about 2,800 to 3,000 in around that range. Kingston Water is about 1,200. All the rest of the homes are, well, how many?
You didn't say South Shore.
Yeah, South Shore and Middlebridge combined 28.
So this is like a third of all homes in town.
Well, no, it's yeah.
Okay.
Do you have numbers on how many private wells there are in town?
No, we don't. But so it's a total of 9,300 town parcels serviced by a water system. It would be the remaining homes. I'm not quite sure how many homes are.
I wonder if Wendy would have that
13,000, I think, somewhere around there. I'm sorry, I don't have that number. Total number of homes in town.
Okay.
It would be the differential.
It seems fair to say about 1/3 of the homes in the town of South Kingstown.
I believe it's more than that, but yeah. Could be up to 50%.
Who said north of 9,000 in total? Received water from Veolia and or part of the South Kingstown Water Districts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's 8,000 with Veolia, South Shore, and Middlebridge. It's about 8,000.
52 and 28 is 8,000.
Okay. All right. So, should we open it for public hearing?
You could choose to open it now, or just continue it until we make those revisions and get it back to you. It's up to you.
Is there anyone here?
Can I get a sense if there's anyone out there who wishes to speak without opening? Okay, come on up. Yep, we'll open it up.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Willis Thomas, 128 Dendron Road. I'm a lifelong resident of South Kingstown. In fact, I live in the house that I grew up in. I've been a Wakefield water customer for essentially my whole life. I've been working in the water industry for 20 years. I was running a municipal water supply and distribution system in Connecticut. More recently, but currently, I am a consultant for municipal-owned water utilities. So obviously I took an interest in this ordinance, and I have a lot of sort of concerns about this ordinance. I think a lot of the questions that you've asked kind of touch on some of them. But one of the things that struck me is that this ordinance, I'm very aware of the drought, the severe drought situation that we all faced last year, but I also am familiar with the water supply plans that both the town of South Kingstown and Wakefield Water, owned by Veolia, have submitted to the state, indicating that the water supply is completely fine. We have safe yields, we have enough for future growth, so there's this disconnect, and certainly the public perception of the comprehensive town plans and these water supply plans are indicating that we are in good shape, yet we're implementing legislation for permanent water restrictions. So my concern is that this is sending a conflicting message. My other concern is, as a Wakefield Water customer, I'm going to be subjected to a town regulation and town enforcement when someone who receives Veolia water in Narragansett is not. It's all coming from the same place. But the jurisdiction is a little unclear to me how the town has jurisdiction over a regulated utility when I'm a Wakefield Water customer as opposed to a South Shore Water customer who is a town of South Kingstown water customer. So those are my concerns around this legislation. In my mind, I've heard you guys talk a lot about willful waste, and I've seen that commonly used in ordinances as a mechanism to address these types of over-irrigation scenarios, leaving a water hose on, things like that. And I suggest maybe we look at a willful waste ordinance as a better sort of crafted approach to discourage or penalize people for a variety of wasteful water scenarios, not just focusing on the, is it an irrigation, is it a sprinkler, what if it's a drip hose, what if, all of the different nuances that can happen, agricultural land versus, am I growing a vegetable garden for food? So I think all of those considerations, we're getting into some very sort of nuanced things here with legislation, as opposed to maybe looking at a willful waste ordinance and addressing what the concern is unintentioned or intentional irresponsible use of water. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the audience wish to speak? All right, any thoughts up here?
Motion?
No, well, what would it be? Just continue it?
Motion to continue the public hearing with direction to staff and legal to make changes as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I have a question. Go ahead.
I like the willful waste idea.
I think that's maybe a secondary thing, because I think it'll give Rich direction about how we think people should be educated or what the consequences are. I don't want to have nothing for this summer because we'll probably have issues.
Go ahead.
I think the comment about the disconnect between what's being filed with the state and our perceptions is accurate. But what we've been dealing with and what we were dealing with last summer was 16 out of the last 20 years we've had to go to an odd-even system to try and conserve because we were told that it's too low. And frankly, my thought with this ordinance is this is sort of a baby step approach, and as Rich said earlier, it's more about education than imposition. But I think we have to start doing something because the climate is changing around us.
Just to go on with that is I think that people did not even understand, well, they weren't notified. They didn't know that there was an odd even. I watch my neighbors water their lawn every other day. They don't know odd even, my house number. I think it's hard for Rich in terms of, I don't know, it might have been hard in terms of enforcement, identifying parcels, and I think this will be much easier for the staff to sort of organize how they do enforcement or education or whatever. So I like I think Monday, Thursday. but I don't know. And I like that, I know.
I'll send you a letter.
I don't use any water, my water bill's like $60.
No, I will add though that, I have forwarded everything over to Narragansett.
Yeah.
I've kept them in the loop all the way
Yeah.
through, just to try to see that they can, implement the same. They are using all the same water, but I agree that, it hardly seems fair in a sense. But they are part of the same system, and they're additionally a big draw.
But we also have different ordinances than Narragansett anyway, and lots of different things. It's just this one is a resource, but they have a different, noise ordinance, or they have a different, nuisance ordinance.
Thank you both for speaking on this for so long. I know we only had one person in the audience who made some great points to us, so thank you for speaking. But I feel like after in a month and we talk about item 10C, I think that there'll be more public comment and where this goes. So I think we should be flexible about this, and I'm looking forward to us talking about it when we continue it. Because climate change isn't going away, and we need to do something about it.
And before the council votes, I should just request, I want to be very clear about the council's direction on the notification to farmers. Is it the council's direction that the town clerk send that notification, or not? Because if we're going to exempt agricultural operations, we don't need to send the notice. I know you want to hear from the farmers. I don't know if you create more problems. They might be coming, worried about an ordinance that might not end up applying to them. I don't know if there's council consensus on that exemption yet, though, and I don't know if you want to hear from Rich on the idea of exempting farms.
I would recommend we exempt farms. I will tell you that from the youth that I see, it's not farms.
Isn't it true that regardless of whether we fit an exemption into this as it relates to farms, that we still would not have sort of jurisdiction for this to apply to the farms? Isn't it preempted by state law?
I think that's arguable, but in terms of the notification, we would absolutely have to notify them, the farms, if the ordinance is going to apply to them. If the council consensus is, let's write in the exemption, then we don't need to go through the exercise of sending it.
So the pending motion includes asking council to write up an exemption for agriculture. I think that may be the consensus you're looking for.
That is a consensus. As such, no notice is required to be given to the farmers.
Okay, great, thank you.
I want to just, I can't emphasize it enough, that we are not talking about no irrigation allowed in this town. That's not what's happening. We're allowing it 2 days a week. I talked with the Parks Department. They're in the same boat. They have athletic fields. They do pay for that water, and they do irrigate some of these fields. And they suggest, no, 2 days a week is probably what they need, and that'll be fine. So they'll work within the ordinance as well. They'll have to, of course.
Right.
But I'm just saying, we're not saying no irrigation.
Right. And this will apply to businesses like the lovely banks that like to water all the time and watered all last summer, and people were grinding their teeth at them.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Rich, before we vote to continue this, one last thought. It's an interesting thought, because there are ways to abuse the use of water without it having to be related to irrigation, but this ordinance is specific to irrigation. So really, there are no powers, conferred on you, including that under subsection C, which would allow you to sort of issue citations to those persons who do abuse it, because if it doesn't relate to irrigation, it's not applicable here. So, I mean, it's just, I guess, a larger thought we don't have to get into tonight, but I'm sure there are instances in which use of water are abused that don't relate to irrigation, and those, I guess, activities cannot be addressed via a citation through this ordinance, because it doesn't relate to irrigation.
In other words, if someone fills up a pool and drains it right away, that wouldn't be prohibited under this ordinance.
But I think if someone was filling up a pool, you're going to go and be like, there's extreme water usage, and their person will go, yep, there's my pool, and then moving on. Right?
That's right.
it doesn't
But
seem.
that gets along with, you know,
I guess what I'm
willful
saying-
abuse or those are the types
Like,
of
there would
things.
still be abuse of,
In every ordinance, you know, there are things that get fleshed out over time. Let's put this, my thought is, this goes out there, we try to work, you know, again, even enforcement alone is gonna be tricky. We have to kind of wade through that. And we'll do the best. I think this is written such that we can work with this. And if it makes a difference by the end of the year, you'll know, because I have data to show that it made a difference. And, you know, we'll see where it goes. And then if we have to look at other methodologies, we can do that. You know, we can revisit it again in the fall when we kind of debrief on it.
all right, sounds good. Thank you, Rich. All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, this public hearing is continued to the second meeting in April. We're now gonna move to new business. Item B. Laurel Clark, come on up.
Good evening. So you have before you, I'm happy to have before you a resolution in the amount of $32,982.65 to W.B. Mason for furniture for the new CLC space. The W.B. Mason is on the MPA contract list. Very straightforward, very exciting, and it also indicates that we're getting towards the home stretch. So we're super excited.
People who are asking when the library is gonna reopen.
April 13th.
Okay,
So
there you
we
go.
will be back to normal hours at Peacedale with the exception of Saturdays, because we're going to give the contractor a chance to do intense work and speed up that schedule even more.
Awesome.
All right, sounds good. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve item 10B.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you.
It's going to bring us to item C, a resolution in opposition to the rate increases requested by Veolia Water Rhode Island, Inc. in docket number 25-30-WW, and requests the Rhode Island Public Utilities Commission to deny requested rate increase as presently proposed. Amy Goins is not here at the moment. Jim, can you just give us a little brief on what's going on, what this entails, and when this upcoming meeting is? Go ahead.
So the subject, as demonstrated, Rich Bourbonnais is truly the water expert here, so he can go over that. But Veolia is proposing a substantial water rate increase for this town in Narragansett. And there's going to be a PUC public hearing. Public Utilities Commission has to really approve this. And there's a long process to get to that point, but we are going to have the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, public hearing on March 30th here at Town Hall in this room. So, yes, this Town Hall.
What time, Jim?
It's going to be 6 p.m.
It was a morning in Narragansett.
Narragansett had to cancel because their town council meeting, they had a conflict with their town hall, so we took it.
So we're hosting the meeting, and it's March 30th at 6 p.m. in our town hall.
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask that we get a notice out to the residents that we are against the rate increase and get it on social media and ask residents to come to the room and speak.
Agreed, it's a 55% potential increase. I mean, that's huge, and it's disgusting.
Rich, I know you gave us a good brief on this at a previous meeting. Can you just run through it, give a summary, what the proposal is? Go ahead.
So, I can only speak with respect to us as a wholesale purchaser, but the increase for the wholesale rate is 105. The request is 105% of what it was. So, I mean, that's just what it is. So that'll be translated. That'll go right over to the ratepayer within the South Shore and the Middlebridge area. We already have pretty good rates, but it is a big hit all at once. So that's what we're disputing. And now so a couple things, and we have posted this on, this has been posted on Facebook. It's put out there on the town website. I believe they just posted it the other day. But this public hearing, it was moved because Narragansett had a conflict. Well, actually, it was the solicitor's office that asked me to reach out to them, but they moved it to the PUC for that Monday night, and I chimed up with the solicitor and said, why don't they just do it here? And then we asked them, I said, okay. So we got lucky in a sense. I think this is the proper place to have it. There's more services total here than there are in Narragansett total. So, but anyways, a couple things happening. You did approve on the agenda, on the consent agenda, a recommendation to utilize the services of an engineer out of Maryland who did the rate study for Narragansett. That's how we came in contact with them. So they're going to review it. They're going to do something in a week or so for us, so we will have that available that night. That's what they're telling me. So they will review it for the merits of the applicant, the merits of the request. And I think that's going to be really helpful to make a case against this application. My concern with the application is I think that it weighs us a little bit heavy on the cost of service, particularly in the distribution part of their cost of service. So when they talk about the dollars that are coming from revenue generated from the resale of water, which is us, the wholesale purchaser, going towards distribution, well, I have a problem with that because we have our own distribution. So that's generally the way I've looked at it, and we'll see what the professional comes up with as well. And we'll have all that information on Monday. I'm not sure how that will go from our side. I believe that the solicitor will be able to do a presentation at the same time, and perhaps the Narragansett will do the same.
And Rich, who are the commissioners on the PUC?
What's that?
Do we know the makeup of the commissioners?
I do not.
Okay.
Rich, we're not the only municipality that buys water from Veolia. Do municipalities, how many customers do they service in South Kingstown, not including the South Shore?
So, it's similar to, it's a similar structure as it is here, where Veolia has a number of customers that they are direct, they collect directly from. In fact, I have a home that I pay my bill to Veolia, and then they also sell wholesale to portions of Narragansett. Narragansett has a system of water towers, and
No, I agree.
Similar structure. It's similar in the numbers.
I guess my question is that we have the South Shore, which is about 3,000 homes or more or less. And why can't we as a town say, hey, we're going to organize our folks that buy water from Veolia and buy from someone else, right? Because we're sick of these increases of 55%. Why can't we do that?
Well, because these systems are closed systems. So the Veolia system includes us with a connection, includes Narragansett with a connection. But beyond those, there is nowhere to get water from. It's not like, the power line where, it's all sort of meshed together. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of that comes down to, and Chris could speak to it, I think better than I can, but water is different. So water has different, minerals and elements in them. So the treatments is different. So you can't necessarily mix these systems. So it's not like we don't really have anywhere to buy it from.
I guess I'm preaching to the choir because you understand all the liabilities here. But in a sense, it's frustrating that we can't go to another system, right? It's frustrating that we are just stuck arguing with the PUC, unnamed bureaucrats who are going to raise our rates for residents, and we can't organize in some sort of other function. It's frustrating.
It is. We're not the only one that's vote. I mean, there are parts of much of the northern part of the state. They are all from Providence Water, and they deal with the same types of situations, just in a different region. But water rights are an issue.
All right.
So I make a motion to approve item 10C and direct the staff to continue to publicize this on social media and all our other communication forums so that residents come and speak up against this.
Second. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. It's going to bring us to item D, a resolution approving the town manager's appointment of Emily Huell as the town clerk effective March 23, 2026, as further described in a memorandum from the town manager.
What's the...
Emily Huell. So can we do something a little formal here? Have you stand up, raise your right hand, we'll have the town manager, read the oath to you, and then we'll act as sort of the consent of it.
Are you sure?
That's the bigger question.
Council President, I would have the Council President read the oath. I think that would be most appropriate for her. I would like to say a couple of things. So we had applications. We had 12 people apply. Only really 2 were really credible for that position. Emily spoke volumes in the way she's carried herself here for the past almost 4 years. She volunteers for everything. All the success in the municipal court and the probate, all those are because of Emily. That's where she started. I'm very happy she accepted the position, and she's very enthused, has a lot of gas in the tank, and she's very excited to take it. So I appreciate the council. I highly recommend the council approve this position that I already promised them.
All right. Do we have an oath? We got one pulled up on Google here.
Do you have a piece of paper that he's going to read from?
If you want, I can swear her in. I would just ask you to stand and raise your right hand. Do you, Emily Huell, solemnly promise to faithfully uphold the laws and Constitution of the State of Rhode Island and the ordinances of the town of South Kingstown, and to faithfully discharge your duties as town clerk?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Motion to approve item 10D.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Emily, I look forward to some great long nights in these chambers with all of us, and I wish you luck.
Bring the menu from Jack's place.
And Emily, you should find out what number clerk are you for South Kingstown in the 302-year history.
Oh, she knows. Okay, so according to the town clerks of South Kingstown little memo that I have here, the 19th. Prime number.
All right.
Prime number.
All right, so we do have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Congrats, Emily.
We're now going to move on to Jim. Go ahead.
So that makes the average time is at least 16 years you have to stay in this position. I just did the numbers. I know. She's in.
All right. So now we're going to move us to the town solicitor's report.
Okay, the first item is regarding a memo from our office to the council on the Low and Moderate Income Housing Act, and specifically the changes that were made effective January 1st of this year. So to clarify, there are 3 buckets of municipalities that the newly amended LMI Housing Act, which governs comprehensive permit applications, establishes. We're in the first bucket, which is we haven't met our 10% quota that the state has set. So because we're in that bucket, comprehensive permit applications can be submitted in South Kingstown, and mandatory minimum density bonuses apply if the planning board finds that the required findings are satisfied. The second bucket is a bucket that I don't think will be in, but that bucket is for municipalities who have met the 10% quota but don't have inclusionary zoning in place. We do have an inclusionary zoning ordinance in place. For municipalities in the second bucket, developers can still submit applications for comprehensive permits, but the density bonus, the mandatory minimum density bonuses that are set forth in the law don't apply. Density bonuses are essentially discretionary. You have to provide them, but not at the minimum level set forth in the law. The first bucket is, I think, the bucket that all the municipalities are now trying to get in. We've hit the 10% and we have inclusionary zoning in place. If you're in that category, comprehensive permit applications are not available. That's under the law in effect today. Legislation proposed this year in the Speaker's housing package would make it optional for municipalities to continue accepting, for municipalities in that first bucket, I guess you could call them exempt municipalities, to accept those applications anyway. So I think Andy and I were emphasizing different aspects of the law, but the headlines, the important thing for the council and the planning board to be aware of is what developers know. We are currently not at that 10%. We do have inclusionary zoning in place, so we're in that bucket of municipalities where these applications, we're vulnerable to these applications, and when one is put in, mandatory minimum density bonuses do apply. So any questions you have, I'm available.
Thank you, Amy.
What's a mandatory minimum density bonus?
It depends on whether the property has public water and sewer available, and it also depends on the percentage of LMI housing, but they go from, 5 dwelling units per acre to 9 to 12. I don't have the table memorized yet off the top of my head, but basically it's a mandatory density bonus. You get to build more than you otherwise would by right. Just to compensate, I guess, for the fact that the application includes 25% affordable housing. And that's...
So you have to have water and sewer?
No, you don't have to have water and sewer to propose a comprehensive permit application. The highest density bonuses go to properties where public utilities are available. So they're either connected or connection is available. If you're on a property that isn't eligible for connection to public utilities, you'll get the lower category of density bonuses. And if we happen to get an application from a developer, a nonprofit developer who's proposing a fully affordable community, that would bump them into a higher category of density bonuses. So it kind of depends on what the project is and where it is.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions on this one? All right, we got another one for you. Item B.
The second item relates to legislation or a resolution that you discussed at your last meeting. I think that was the resolution from Tiverton, requesting the General Assembly adopt legislation that did two things. One is, again, relating to comprehensive permits. One is reinstating required findings for denial, so putting in reasons in the law where the city or town could deny those applications, not simply just saying you haven't met the required findings. And the second change would be counting LMI units when the building permit is issued rather than when a certificate of occupancy is issued. Basically giving the city or town credit for the affordable unit when that building permit is issued. And I suggested, I told the council I thought there was legislation proposed to that effect, that you might want to see it specifically. So that's House Bill 8249. All these bills now, I think, have had initial committee, most of them, I think, have had initial committee hearings. Nothing has been passed out of committee yet. That'll happen later in the session.
Thank you, Amy.
I would like to try to draft a resolution addressing counting the units as they're in process rather than wait for the CO. Because I think we already have a number of them in process. I'd like to support that part of it.
Yeah, I think we're all on board with that.
Okay. Can we,
so that would be, that first part of this bill include certain housing at an earlier point in the process as compared to how it works now?
Yes.
Draft resolution.
So I guess do you,
I guess it would be odd because we'd be supporting one part of the bill, but not expressly supporting the other part of this bill.
Is there a reason that we would exclude required findings of denial?
no, if you want to do a resolution in support of this bill in its entirety, you can do that.
Does it ever occur that we pass a resolution in support of one amendment to a bill, but not expressly state our support for another amendment to the same bill?
I think that's rare because then it's confusing for the reps. I think they want to have an up or down on the bill as a whole.
What's the downside to our community if we ask for the required findings of denial? Is there a downside to the planning board?
I don't see a downside.
Amy, isn't it not as odd, though, that we could put forward one part of it but not another one? Because they'll just do a sub-A of it. I mean, they're going to have to probably split that up anyway.
The sub-As are in tracking these bills closely over the last few years at least. I think the sub-As haven't come out yet, but we expect sub-As at some point. If you want legislation that does one thing and not another, I would suggest direct me to draft that legislation and then send it to your local delegation.
So motion to draft, have council draft legislation that we all agree on the first part, but not the second part.
All right, we got a motion. I'll second that. We got a second.
Sure.
Any discussion? I'm good with that.
We have housing that should count. It should help our planning board.
Agreed.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
That's all right. I was just going to ask Amy, I looked at the legislation. The second part that we're having trouble with, I'm not clear on what it's attempting to accomplish, and the explanation that follows the bill doesn't help.
No, they're usually not super helpful. I think it is an attempt to provide discrete reasons to reinstate the law used to contain a set of findings for approval of comp permits and then a separate set of permissible reasons to deny it. The law was changed to just have a single set of required findings. I think there's a perception that change in reframing the law made it harder to deny comprehensive permit applications. So this would simply reinstate the required findings. Permissible reasons for denial. One of them, for instance, the municipality has an approved affordable housing plan, the proposal is inconsistent, and the municipality has made significant progress. That doesn't exactly match. It's not the inverse of a required finding, so there's a perception, I think, among the planning community and the municipalities that change would make it easier to, in theory, deny a comprehensive permit application.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. Thank you, Amy. Now we got town manager's report. Jim?
Yes, I have 3 meetings to announce. I already did one, but I'll repeat it. That the Public Utilities Commission public comment hearing on the Veolia water rate schedule increase will be held here in South Kingston, Monday, March 30th at 6 p.m. in the Town Council chambers. And we will be putting that out on social media with a robust campaign to
And let them know that the council has put out a resolution.
Yes.
Opposing.
Yes. And having them come and speak their mind on these exorbitant rate increases.
Yeah.
Second thing, on Wednesday, April 1st, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., there'll be a joint session, Town Council and School Committee on the budget review here at Town Hall. So Wednesday, April 1st, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Town Council chambers for the joint session on with the Town Council and School Committee. Another one, the third one is a ways off, but it's worth mentioning because I think it's pretty good that it's going to be held here, is the League of Women Voters will be held here on Wednesday, September 30th from 7 p.m. The forum will be held at this town council chambers right here. So that's only six months away. So that's another important meeting, future meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes.
Jim, there's one more mixed-use zoning with Able East. When's that one?
April 9th.
April 9th?
It's his birthday. Sorry, Jim.
So we have a public hearing April 7th, a public hearing April 8th, and a meeting April 9th.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Work sessions.
We put those out on social media. Those are just the big three meetings that what's that?
Is it, are we locked in on the 9th, or is that still?
You know, I don't have that date in front of me, but I don't. I think we were going to do it on the 7 p.m. Does that sound right? It was, yes.
With Jamie.
So the consultants are already preparing to fly for that date, so
yes,
shouldn't move it at this point.
The date?
The date. Too late to really move the date because we've.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
So, last week I called Jim about potholes and a number of potholes, so I just want to encourage everyone to report potholes. They'll come out and fill them, because if your car is damaged by a pothole and it hasn't been reported, you can't recover the money. So you're out the money. So I want to encourage everyone. I was on Gravel Hill Road. There's a big one there. Just was there yesterday. So we just need to encourage our friends and family to report potholes. One thing. Second thing.
And the response time is great.
Yeah.
I mean.
Jim went right out.
Yeah, there were some big ones I want to look at. I think we've over the hump of the real bad ones, but there are still a lot around.
The next thing, I don't know if anyone else got a call. I know we got some emails about Old Mountain Fields. Do you want to speak publicly, Jim, or can you speak publicly a little bit about Old Mountain Field, the delays, the impact on the high school, or just so that if anyone's paying attention at 10 of 10? Because
sure.
the
yes.
paper called.
We have done some very limited complaints. I will say that. It's usually one person that's been calling and complaining and rallying a few others to call and complain.
Well, there's going to be an article in the paper.
I know. At the request of the person that called and complained.
Oh.
So, but I will say this. This is exciting. The town of South Kingston is renovating Old Mountain Field at a cost of over $4 million. I think it's $4.4 million. And those are exciting times. That's one more thing that we're able to get to get it going. Now, there was a delay. Of course there was a delay. We've got nearly 6 feet of snow in this time frame, right? 2 major storms and a blizzard. So, yes, there was a delay to get to this point, but okay. But, the question came, could we postpone it? No, we can't. We already hired people to do this job, and there were budgetary constraints that we need to meet and use the money. The opera money needs to be expended, like the grant money. Everything's on a timetable. So, but what is it going to entail? So the question came up about cutting power, removing the power source. That's another big thing there, along with the restrooms and the concession stand. We're not touching the field. But we are taking the power, but we're immediately replacing it with a generator that will generate all the lights we need, whether it's the infield, outfield, doesn't matter. The one area that will be, people will see a difference is because of the way the construction is being run, they can't stand exactly behind home plate. And that became an issue for whatever reason. And Terry Lynch, who is the athletic director for the town, is we went off him. He said this would not disrupt us to the point where we could not sustain and have these, whether it's Little League or Senior Leagues or whatever. But of course, when you do a construction project of this magnitude, whether it's a library, whether it's a school, whether it's the most popular field we have in the town, it's gonna cause some displacement of people but that's the only way we can move ahead. Otherwise, we'd never get it done. So I'm very happy that we're starting this. It started this week, and I'm happy that it'll be done by the timetable. I believe it's early fall, and we'll I think it's good. But of course, we're gonna have people complaining about that.
And we all received a memo from Terry Murphy, with the explanation about the things that are out of our control. We can't do anything about, the regulatory concerns and Rhode Island Energy's schedule, which has been affected by the blizzard and the cleanup. And she also addressed the people who were complaining too, specifically.
She did, and we know them. I mean, okay, I get it. I get, for whatever issue, there is an issue there. But we need, of course, look at the projects we're doing. Of course, like the library, right? We had to shut that down for 2 months. But people will have the benefit of that for the next 70 years. Same thing with Old Mountain Field. Once that's done, it'll be half a century before we have to fix this thing again. So, and plus we have to expend that money in a certain time frame. We cannot postpone it. So I'm fine with that.
Thank you. And then the last thing, I spoke to Jim about the Farm Forest and Open Space program, and we talked a little bit about it at the last meeting, and I didn't think people were aware of what it was or what it does. So this is available to you. It's a state program. Not every, the parcels participate for 15 years. Up to 15 years they get, and eventually can get, a credit at the town level. But some of those parcels that we drive by that look like farms, that we think are beautiful and protected, may not be. The people who are in these programs can pull their property out. And you know how expensive land is, so there are very valuable pieces of property that look like farms that might be in this program and then pull themselves out. So it's just to say, when you raid the open space fund to do something else, thinking that 30% of the town is protected, it's sort of a false reality that there is a lot protected, but things that we think are always going to be a farm may not be. So I think Wendy provided a list of the parcels as well, like the addresses. So, and it's go ahead.
Yeah, is there any oversight on any of these parcels? Like, do we go out and check to make sure that they're abiding by whatever?
There is an Agricultural Land Preservation Commission, the ALPC, and it's set by state law, and they basically look at all the farm parcels in Rhode Island and try to implement policy through the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, specifically the Division of Agriculture, to preserve farmland and maintain the generational farmland and policies for it. Another good part of this, and it's in what Deb had us print out, was the Farmland Preservation Program, which is pretty awesome. The Division of Agriculture works with local farmers who may want to be getting out of the farming and connects with farmers who are trying to get in and maintain that program. So it's pretty amazing, and it allows for the preservation of generational farmland to stay. And what it does is it sells to the new farmer at 50% of the price, and they're guaranteed to stay at that farm for at least, I think, 10 years in order to, make payments on and preserve it. So this is all on the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management website and in that packet. So.
All right. Good. Anything else?
Yep. No, that's good for now.
All right. Now we're going to move on to public comment. Anyone who has an opportunity to speak who wishes to now, I invite you to come on up.
You're over your quota.
You get up, you talk. Listen, man.
All right, we're going to move on to communications. Item B is an email dated March 10, 2025 from Stephen Dalmatian, co-chair, Armenian National Committee of Rhode Island, requesting that the town fly the Armenian flag on April 24th to commemorate Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. All right, Amy, I know we have a flag policy in place. Just going to turn this over to you. Go ahead.
Yes, this request is subject to the town's flag policy as adopted in 2022. This falls under the category of ceremonial flags in that policy. So the policy does allow on town flagpoles display of flags in conjunction with official ceremonial items. Other flags may be displayed in conjunction with official actions, ceremonial items, or proclamations of the town council. The correspondence, I think, did include a request for a resolution, recognizing the Armenian genocide. So it's at the council's discretion. If you're gonna approve the flag, I think you should also, adopt a resolution, to commemorate this.
So moved.
All right, we got a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Do we have a resolution from them?
Not currently. I can take a look in the folder and see if I can find anything from previous years.
Yeah, because we've done this before.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. That'll bring us to item C, an email dated March 16, 2026 from Marissa Salisbury concerning a budget request for repairs to the playground at Wakefield Elementary School. Go ahead, Jim.
This, our parks are some of our biggest prides in this town, in our playgrounds, and we recognize that. We applied for 3 grants, one grant with 3 parks through RIDEM, Trinity Rock, Town Farm, and Fagan Park. We did not for the Wakefield Elementary School, which Ms. Salisbury was questioning about. And the reason for that is it's part of a much bigger picture. We know we're going to be tearing down that school soon. Is that playground, should it be stationary there, or should we move it somewhere else? These are all conversations we need to have. But I do recognize that, we still need to keep the park up, because anytime you drive by, you see many children there. So I took a ride there today. We are down 2 seats for change. We found some from another playground that we can use, and we will be putting them up tomorrow. But also, I had Rex go out today as well, through Terry Murphy. He conducted an inspection, and there was nothing that would be considered hazardous at that playground or require urgent closure, which was important. The interlocal trust, which insures us, also they recommended certain components be replaced, which we have a budget of $20,000 and a bid to do that work. But once again, we're holding off till we find out if that park is going to stay right there. But in the interim, we put rubber mats down, deteriorated deck areas, and filled holes where needed. But we were down 2 seats, and they called me today, and they're going to put up 2 more swings tomorrow. So it's safe, it's insured. We have a budget for the new one once we determine what we're going to do with that land. And but I appreciate her emailing us to keep us on our toes to make sure it's done right.
Jim, just thank Terry and Rex, because I think this is a good example of constituent services, right? We heard from a constituent that wanted at least some repairs to it. You all got right away on it, and the park is now better than it was before. So, good job.
I think there was some discussion a while back with Terry about, depending on what happens with the building, possibly relocating. And
that's correct.
It's not a matter of picking it up and moving it 5 feet and dropping it down. I've had to learn that especially schoolyard playgrounds are so highly regulated. The short answer is going to wind up being, if you move it, you replace everything, and that takes forever, like it did with Peacedale Elementary.
Yeah, that's correct. So if we're going to invest $20,000 plus in a new playground, we probably should ensure that's the exact spot that place will be for 25 years or so.
Exactly. Might not be the best, depending on whatever the purpose is used at that school site.
But if we can repair the stuff that we've got and leave it in place
As long as it's safe, that's all I care about. Right. It is safe. It's been inspected now. But we were down to swing seats, which I didn't even realize that. But we'll get them in tomorrow.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim.
Do we just put this on file?
No action to be taken.
No action, okay.
All right. Item D is an email dated March 19, 2026 from Councilmember Patty Alley requesting support for House Bill H8018 relating to proposed changes to the state building code requiring a minimum of 2 means of egress consisting of standard exterior doors. Patty?
So this came to our attention with the construction on Oak Street of 2 5-bedroom duplexes. So to clarify, there are two buildings. Each of those buildings is a duplex, and there are 5 bedrooms on each side. So it became apparent that there was only one front door. There are no side doors. There are no back doors. And through a period of investigation that Councilmember Marin also helped with at the state level, we learned that somehow this was not in violation of the existing code, either housing, building, whatever, and that there was really no way for us to address the lack of a second door because it wasn't addressed in the state legislation. So Representative McEntee wrote the bill and submitted it, and there are a number of really great co-sponsors to this bill, including Representative Casey, who is a firefighter, and he is the chair of the Municipal and Housing Committee in Rhode Island, obviously. And so he'll be the one that's like, he's the chair of the committee. This legislation will go to that committee. And we have some other really great sponsors as well. So we have, some of the local, we have Rep. McEntee, Tina Spears, as well as Bill O'Brien's, Stephen Casey, Justine Caldwell. I really think it's an important safety feature and something that I would like to send a resolution of support for.
I just want to commend Patty for getting this done and getting it to Representative McEntee. This came out of the shock, I think is the best way to describe it, that we all had with the Oak Street development, and the fact that there were 2 huge duplexes and only one egress. So, thank you, Patty.
Just want to echo the advocacy, because a lot of people identify problems. People are put to point them out. They're not put to create a solution. So I think it's a great change in the law. Hopefully it'll pass. I just want to say the developer on Oak Street didn't do anything wrong. They followed the law in all of those things. That was what the law is. It's shocking when you look. I've seen the picture you have of the backside. It is shocking to think how the heck these people would ever get out if there was a fire. So I don't want to bash the developer for doing exactly what was required, but I'm glad that you're making the requirement harder and straight, safer, stronger for people.
I really don't want that to be used as a plan going forward all over the state. And while, yes, the developer did do nothing wrong, they followed the letter of the law, but at some point there was a decision made to not put in a second door.
Well, it comes down to cost, right? So,
I guess so. It's not right.
Just wanted to echo Patty. Great job on this. I think it's a really important part that needs to be changed, right? And with that, I make a motion to direct that we have a resolution supporting these changes.
Second. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Looking forward to this getting some good progress and hopefully enacted by the end of session. We'll stay tuned. All right, we're going to move to item E, email dated March 19, 2026 from Councilmember Jay Wedgemont and Council Vice President Mike Marin requesting support for House Bill H7911 and Senate Bill S3012 relating to the Extended Producer Responsibility for Packaging and Paper Act. Jay, Mike?
So this is as the President said, the House Bill H7911 and Senate Bill S3012, which brings the bottle bill back this year. The bottle bill is important because it aligns the state of Rhode Island with the rest of many of the rest of the states, and incurs a 10 cents on each bottle, so people can return that and make 10 cents back. New York has it. I've used it in New York as a young college student looking for pocket money, and I think that this is the way forward. The problem in Rhode Island is folks have tried to push for recycling reforms since I was in middle school, and that hasn't happened. I think that this is the moment that could push it in the right direction, and I think this town council supports those ideals, and I think that our state representative McEntee has done a great job at leading a bipartisan and frankly across the border compromise to get this across. So I think that's what this resolution supports.
I'll see your grade school and raise you my high school, the first time in the 70s. And yes, Representative McEntee has been tireless trying to get this done. I think the bottom line is people have to start changing their behavior. And the only way it's going to happen is if we change the statute and give them an incentive to do so.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve item 14E.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. It's going to bring us to item F, an email dated March 19, 2025 from Councilmember Jay Wedgemont requesting a proclamation recognizing March 25, 2026 as National Medal of Honor Day and to display National Medal of Honor Day banners on Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm introducing this tonight on behalf of Sharon Henderson, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but has been a big part about making this recognition continues in South Kingstown. As you know, in 2023, during our 300th anniversary, South Kingstown was officially designated a Medal of Honor town. We're only one of 3 in the entire country and the only one in Rhode Island. For a town our size, that's something that's pretty serious, and our community is connected to 3 Medal of Honor recipients: Sergeant William J. Babcock of the Civil War, Sergeant William G. Forney of World War II, and Corporal David B. Champagne of the Korean War. And these are individuals who stepped up in extraordinary moments, and their legacy is something that we can carry on with us in South Kingstown. And you'll see it in where the bridges are named in their honor and the banners across Main Street. As we approach National Medal of Honor Day, this March 25th, this proclamation is our way to make sure that the legacy is remembered and passed on. I want to thank Sharon for sending me this, and even though she couldn't be here tonight, and I move that the Town Council reaffirm South Kingstown as a Medal of Honor town.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Not about this. This is great. Jim, with regard to Champagne Heights and Fournier Estates.
Whoa, should we pass this one and then take that up?
No, it's related.
Okay.
People don't understand, I think Champagne Heights is a euphemism, and what's missing what's what euphemism means? You don't know what that word means? Okay. They don't understand what Champagne Heights, it's sort of like, people think of it as like a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. So, if you could, can you hold this as a placeholder for the Housing Authority to rename it to say Corporal David B. Champagne Heights, and Fournier Estates the same way, William something?
Sergeant William G. Fournier and Corporal David B. Champagne. I agree with you.
Because, yes, that's why I want to say, because it does it's not exactly this, but it's like fits. Like, what's missing is people don't understand the history behind those 2 housing projects, areas, communities. So I wanted to try to change that so that people
I couldn't agree with you more. So when we dedicated Champagne Heights, when we got the $850,000, if you go in the post office, and before you go to the counter, look left, and see a big picture of Corporal Champagne in his Marine uniform career, read the plaque.
Right.
And it's humbling with what he did.
But I know they're going to, we just have to all kind of keep track as this project moves forward. Maybe there's going to be grant money for a new sign when they redo Champagne Heights, and that we change it then, so with that money, so that people understand the history, and that we're not trying to give a history lesson. Like Tiger Patrick gave a whole story about it, and it shouldn't be because you know Tiger that you hear about it, or you know, so.
But even in our documents going forward, maybe when we refer to Champagne Heights, we can say Corporal Champagne Heights.
That's a great idea too.
Right?
Can we do that?
Yes, I agree.
I don't mean to co-opt your thing, but it was on my list from.
No, this is our thing. This is South Kingstown's thing. So you're not, this is a great
I just think
idea.
we need to start changing the language, and we just increase education. I love the change into all the.
Corporal Champagne Heights.
Corporal David. It's his military rank. I don't know the rankings. Jim might.
He was an NCO, but if you read the plaque, he had his arm blown off protecting his other Marines. I mean, these guys are warriors. That's the highest award a military member can get in this country. Most are dead when they get it because of their bravery. But I couldn't agree with you more. Everything should have the full title and the name, because I didn't know what Champagne Heights was until 10 years ago.
It'll make it, I agree with you. It was a good idea, Tim. I agree.
So we have a motion in a second. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we all said it at the same time.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. It's going to bring us to the end here. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We got a motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, this meeting is over.
Good night, South Kingston.